It's 6 o'clock, so I'm going to call to order the Select Board meeting of Monday, July 20th, 2026. And as many of you note, I just want to comment, Mary Hartman is not here this evening. She is out of state and dealing with some family issues that are taking priority, so she is not going to be here this evening. All right, so with that, in our call to order, we'll have public comments. So public comments are limited to 15 minutes, 3 minutes per person, and these are comments for items that are not on the agenda. So if there's someone here who wants to make public comments, you're welcome to come to the table, or if you are remote, please raise your hand using the raise hand feature. I see no hands, therefore no public comments. So we are going to move right along into our consent agenda.
So we've got the consent agenda. Is there anything that anybody would like to pull off for discussion?
Well, I don't want to pull off for discussion, but I do have 2 edits to the minutes.
Okay.
They're pretty minor, so let me describe them. Actually,
which one? To the,
so it's on June 22nd minutes, which I think are the only
Yep.
ones. Right, so on the top of, and you don't have to pull this up, on the top of page 8, there were comments that Paul had made, and Paul referenced the term task force, but I think he was referring to the advisory group for the Black Heritage Black Markers. So it's really just changing task force to the advisory group. And then on the top of page 12, there's sort of a similar reference to use of task force, but I believe, Paul, you were referring to the hate and bias work group. So I think it should be replaced with work
Right,
group.
yeah.
So just minor sort of typos things, so they're not substantive outside of that.
I just want to make a comment. As I reviewed the minutes during the discussion of the Black History markers, the Select Board made a number of comments.
Mm-hmm.
Kristen had summarized those, and I think those summarized, which all the bullets there were correct. But I thought there was some detail in some of the comments, so I asked her to add my comments, which I added here.
Mm-hmm.
But I do know there are other comments, and I don't know whether, it seems a bit odd that Dean and I made some specific comments and others didn't, but I know others did. So we may want to add those, or we may not, but it's up to you guys. I just want to give you that background of that change.
And those were comments that you gave as a result of reading the minutes?
Right.
Okay, and is that true for you, Dean, as well?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it sort of is what it is. I think one of the challenges of taking minutes is not writing everything down verbatim. So I think Kristen's trying to find a balance, but I think we can share that feedback. But let's leave them where they are. I know that there are, the video is still there, but I think the main points are still captured.
Okay, I just
But
want
it's
to
a good observation.
I want
Yep.
to I want to give some background of why
Yeah,
I seem to have expansive comments, because I asked those
Yep.
comments to be there.
Yep.
Thank you.
okay.
yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just going back. Yes, there were some summary
Yep.
notable points from select board statements, which I think was intended to capture a number of things. And then to your point, Paul, I think you may have added some specifics that you made in the following paragraph, correct?
Right.
Yep.
Yep. I mean, I'm fine with them as written.
Yeah, no, I am too.
But I do appreciate you both adding your comments
Yep.
and calling out that, you did so if we were also wanted to
Yeah, I just wanted
add
to
anything more.
explain why it doesn't
Yeah.
look balanced, because a lot of people had comments. and-
There were a lot of comments.
There were a lot of
Yep,
comments.
yep.
Yes. Okay. Okay, so, sorry, but did we want to have a motion to approve? I'm going to make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as written with the minor changes that Wendy had proposed.
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great, thank you.
Okay.
All right. Select board appointments.
Select board appointments. So we've got the following appointments. Reappoint Julie McClure of 2128 Main Street.
Can I just have a question on?
Yep.
It's more of a question. On item D of election officer reappointments for my own edification and for the public, how are those people selected? Are they volunteered? What's the background of why those 57 names are on there?
It's a healthy inventory of people. We've got a
Right.
lot.
It is. No,
There are. Carrie, do you want to speak to that?
I will respond at a very high level because I don't want to misspeak. This process is established in state election law, how many people you get representing each of the different parties. And I know in the past we've had a memo in the packet on that, and I'd be happy to dig that up and circulate it to you, but I do not have it handy this evening.
But we're just following the same procedure that we've always followed.
I'm
that-
not personally questioning it.
Yeah.
I'm just
No, I'm not
impressed
either.
by the, I'm
Yeah.
impressed by the
Yeah.
volunteerism and the, you know, the huge board of people that staff our elections for a town of our scale.
Do those change from year to year? These are all reappointments.
These are almost all reappointments.
Except for
There's
the very last one. Right.
Appointment
Yeah.
at the end.
Yeah.
Okay,
So a lot are people who have done this for many years, but they serve a one-year term.
okay, thank you.
All right, so I got some reading to do. So here goes. Select board appointments. Reappoint Julie McClure of 2128 Main Street to the Concord Housing Development Corporation for a term to expire on May 31st, 2029. Reappoint Ray Andrews of 11 Dalton Street to the Concord Housing Development Corporation for a term to expire on May 31st, 2029. Lisa Resnick of 45 Laurel Street to the Pollinator Health Advisory Committee for a term to expire May 31st, 2029. And the following election officer reappointments for a one-year term from August 1st, 2026 to expire on July 31st, 2027. Konstantinos Barry Ames of 149 Central Street, Carol Bierce of 127 Neshoba Road, David Bell, 1657 Monument Street, Matt Bogert, 121 Baker Avenue, Gerard H. Boyle, 164 Central Street, Malcolm Bryant, 175 Conant Street, Elizabeth Copley, 8 Concord Green, Unit 2, B.J. Daniel, 286 Lexington Road, Joyce Davis, 54 Loring Road, Cassette Dunn, 131 Ministerial Drive, Joan Egan, 1544 Main Street, Barbara Finan, 28 Peter Bulkley Road, Brian Francisco, 22 4th Street, Westford, Mass., Mark Garvey, 25 Damon Street, Kristen Haggerty, 95 Revolutionary Road, Morgan Toll Hallian, 22 4th Street, Westford, Mass., Catherine Hopkins, 444 Strawberry Hill Road, Moira Tenhove, 187 Oak Hill Circle, Ron Tenhove, 187 Oak Hill Circle, Mary Holt, 20 South Meadow Ridge, James P. Hackett III, 70 Beharrell Street, Unit 210, Alice Kaufman, 1615 Lowell Road, Doris Kelly, 1674 Monument Street, Suzanne Knight, 64 Bayberry Road, Elizabeth Kundert, 182 Central Street, Betsy Levinson, 124 Neshoba Road, Julie Hirschler Marchand, 1381 Main Street, Heather Martis, 22 Monson Road, Abby Marsh, 707 Barrett's Mill Road, C. Scott McCutcheon, 861 Barrett's Mill Road, Peggy McFarland, 1635 Main Street, Devra Feshbach Marini, 208 Old Marlborough Road, Paul Feshbach Marini, 208 Old Marlborough Road, Claire Moyer, 33 South Street, Donald Moyer, 33 South Street, Ann Mullaney, 138 North Branch Road, Jean Nardi, 29 Academy Lane, Carol Nichols, 58 Bristers Hill Road, Jean Olson, 8 Wright Farm, Lori O'Neill, 4 Chestnut Street, Beth Phelan, 65 Attawan Road, David Quinby, 32 Center Village Drive, Jamie Ring, 80 Riverdale Road, Laura Smith, 18 Central Street, Marion Stanley, 138 Hubbard Street, Sue St. Croix, 32 Center Village Drive, Dean Sullender, 64 Bayberry Road, Haney Taluni, 55 Crest Street, Bonnie Walker, 40 Walden Terrace, Margaret Warglin, 97 Hillside Avenue, Richard A. Wells, 368 Losbrook Road, Sally Williams, 113 Hillside Avenue, Rebecca Winborn, 19 Damon Street, Gail Wine, 106 Alden Road, Karen Young, 49 Crest Street, Josephine Arena, 167 Fairhaven Road. In addition, the appointment of Lisa Resnick of 45 Laurel Street as an election officer for a one-year term from August 1st, 2026 to expire July 31st, 2027.
Very good, nice job. Is there a second?
Second.
Right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you.
And thank all of them for their service
Right.
to the
Yes.
town and
Yeah.
the critical process in our democratic
Yes, thank
society.
Right. And they do it with a smile on their face.
They do.
For all the kids that come in and everything, so it's great. All right, so moving on to the chair's report. I'll just note, I actually don't have that much to report this week, because most of what I'll speak to is actually on the agenda this evening. I just want to make one reminder to everyone that the Giroux Park ribbon cutting ceremony is this Friday from 12 to 2. The weather is looking fabulous, so it should be a great event, and hope everybody will join us there. And I think with that, I'll turn it over to Carrie. And Carrie, I hope that you will speak to the Economic Development Bond Bill,
Oh, okay. We,
or opportunities.
yeah, no, that's great. I think we're going to start, Megan's going to provide an update on the rental agreement on the 40 Stowe Street
Great.
project. There were some questions that were asked at the last meeting, and then I will continue with the rest of the report.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Megan Zamuto, Deputy Town Manager. At our last meeting, questions were raised by members of the public regarding the proposed Verizon lease. And I just wanted to follow up. We discussed those questions with Verizon, with our consultant, and with Town Council. And I just want to summarize those responses pretty briefly here. So first, there was a question about whether the reduction in the antenna height affected the radio frequency exposure or the coverage modeling. So Verizon confirmed that the coverage modeling was performed using the currently proposed 72-foot antenna height. Verizon also confirmed that reducing the antenna height from the earlier concept of to the proposed 72-foot design, I think it was 100 to 72, would not substantially change the RF exposure in nearby areas. There was a question about whether the proposed facility would provide 5G service. And so we followed up with Verizon and their consultants, who confirmed that the site will provide both 4G LTE and 5G service. The coverage maps in the application illustrate the expected propagation characteristics across the relevant frequency bands. And while some are labeled LTE, they are representative of the network deployment, which includes dynamic spectrum sharing as well as dedicated 5G C-band service. And that's why I'm reading this right now. Because
Thank you. C-band service.
there was a question because it wasn't very clear in the materials. And so we followed up, and there was a technical explanation that I think landed there. So, okay, a couple more
That's
things. There was also some questions about the lease itself, what happens if the permits are not ultimately issued. So I ran this by Town Council to see if we felt like we had strong enough language there. So while the lease does not contain a separate permit contingency provision, it does include termination provisions for both parties. And so Verizon can terminate by providing the required notice and payment set forth in the agreement. The town also has a termination right. So neither party will be required to remain in the agreement indefinitely if the project does not move forward, and Town Council is comfortable with the language that we proposed. But I think a couple people brought that up, and we wanted to make sure that we weren't missing anything there. And finally, there was a question about project-specific operational and site design considerations, so like thinking about noise. And so, while the lease is not specifically addressing concerns about impacts in the neighborhood, they are, of course, a critical part of the project's review. And consideration of the surrounding neighborhood has been kind of at the forefront of designing this project. And there'll be the public process to review the site plan will be before the Zoning Board of Appeals in their public hearing process. And there'll be a comprehensive public review of those aspects. So I just want to remind people that that will be coming up, and we'll have, as soon as those dates are finalized, we will be sharing that down the line. So I just wanted to close the loop on those questions since they were raised at the last meeting. And so we did not make any adjustments to the lease that you saw at the last meeting, and we'll plan to move forward with execution.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for following up on those open questions. That's much appreciated. Okay.
Okay, so let's see. Do you want to talk about the the
Yes,
bond bill?
I can
Okay.
do that.
Megan did the lion's share of the staff work on that, so probably be easier for her to speak to that.
Sure. We received a question this week from Senator Barrett's office asking if we had a project for consideration in the economic development bond bill. And this is after, I think there was already a note to the full board about the House version, which included a $500,000 item for the town of Concord in relation to the Rotary and kind of.
Yeah, it's,
It's overall
Yeah.
traffic.
Analysis.
congestion, yeah.
but it was economic
The
economic
economic
related.
impacts
Right.
of the traffic.
Okay, yes.
issues.
Yep.
So that was in there, and then and the House version. And so Senator
Right.
Barrett's office reached out and said, do we have a project for around $600,000 that might, be related to economic development in Concord? And so our team was able to look at our new transportation study, which is very exciting. We have a prioritized list that really, I don't think is 100% perfect, but it has real projects and it has a ranking. And the number one project on there is the Kenny Dunn Square intersection. That is, of course, right down the street from MCI Concord and has been on our list for many years and is the top ranked in the list. So we're excited to propose some funds in this bond bill for the design of that updated intersection, which would be critical. Our team also flagged the Pale Factory Bridge, which has a weight limit currently.
I didn't know that.
And
I know.
Yes.
It's a problem.
Sorry, what bridge is it?
it's the Pale Factory Bridge.
It's right next
It's
to,
right next
it's
to
right next to Kenny Dunn, yeah.
It's 100 feet from it. And so
Yeah, right.
Oh,
it,
okay.
Where the
it
dam
wouldn't,
is, yeah.
yeah, you might not know the name. I certainly
I didn't
did.
know that, I didn't know it by
And
that
if you
name.
Google it, nothing really comes up.
Yeah.
So
Now we know.
thank you for clarifying. Those two projects would really need to be designed in sync and kind of done together, and they're both right down the street from MCI and pretty critical. So we did have some work done on that to scope out a project a few years ago. So we were really ready to be able to answer the question, what projects do we want to see in here? And it would be the design of those two projects. So it'd be about $300,000 for each one. Is what we requested. So we sent that over to the senator's office, and so now that request is in the Senate's. The senator has received our request for that bond bill, and we also asked him to consider supporting the language for Concord in the House bill as well. So, but that just because it's in that bill doesn't mean that. It will certainly be funded. There are a number of next steps, and I can kind of run through that briefly if the board is interested. So first, of course, it has to complete the legislative process. The Senate is going to review it. They have to pass their version of the bill. If the House and Senate approve different versions, it will go to conference committee to negotiate a compromise. And then there'll have to be a version approved by both branches and signed by the governor. So if enacted, the bill authorizes the Commonwealth to borrow funds for the studies and for the design, but it does not automatically provide the funding. So after it's enacted, the governor and the Executive Office of Administration and Finance, they'll determine whether to include, that study or the design in the Commonwealth's capital investment plan. So the responsible state agency, depending if it's going to be MassDOT, will be in charge of it. And they'll work to help develop the project scope and the procurement process, and the bond funds would be allocated as part of the state's broader capital program. So bond authorizations are typically funded over time as projects are prioritized and ready to proceed. So if it's in the bond bill, that doesn't mean there's a borrowing for all of those projects. They're kind of as they bubble up. So this is different than an earmark, but it is still exciting, and it's really positive news that our legislators are reaching out to us, asking us what we need here in Concord, and that we're able to answer the call and put together our priorities in a quick way and partner with them as they continue to advocate for Concord.
Great.
I have a couple of comments. First of all, the House project and the Senate project are really connected.
Absolutely.
To
Right.
Commonwealth
Yep.
Avenue, so it makes a lot of sense for the legislature and perhaps the governor to look at those together.
Yeah.
Secondly, since it's MCI and the Rotary are such high priority projects for the governor, I would hope this would get our attention, because they're very worthwhile and needed projects, and they fit together really well, so thanks for putting that all together. And thanks to our legislators.
Right, and I assume that we have to continue to follow up on and advocate for that borrowing to be issued to us, so that'd be great.
Yes, I was just thinking, I just completed our paperwork for the reimbursement for the $250,000 FY26 state earmark, which funded the first chunk of our master plan. And
Yeah.
so I was just speaking with Elisa earlier and thinking about how to kind of update our legislators about the progress that we made and thank them for their advocacy on that earmark and kind of tee up, these other things that are going to be happening. So we're going to think about the best way to share some of the highlights of the work that's been done to date.
That'd be
This is a
great.
question about the bond authorization. That's a larger bond authorization for the whole state.
That's right.
And it has these line items in it, of which we would get these two items added as line items.
Yep.
And then the entire bond authorization would end up kind of percolating around until ours maybe bubble to the top. Is that the way that would work? Or once the bond is authorized, we can come in and start to think about grabbing our thing? Or can you just explain that one more time about
Sure.
how that post-process works once the bond authorization
Yeah, my
occurs?
understanding is it would have to be kind of, the administration would have to include it on the Commonwealth's capital investment plan. So that's another element here. And then if the governor wants to put it on that plan, or, then it's like what department is going to be in charge of it, and then we kind of partner with them to move a project forward. So.
It just seems odd that the bond is authorized, like,
Right.
we go through the authorization process, the authorization is sitting there, and now
Yeah.
the access to it is kind of murky.
Well, I think there are far more projects and far more dollars in that whole bill than can be accommodated. So there's going to be some triage, I believe,
Yeah.
legislative triage
Yeah.
moving forward, which is why it's
Yeah.
important for us to kind of keep reminding our legislatures.
So the
Yeah.
bond, so I'm clear then, the bond authorization has these line items, but the line items may add up to more than the actual bond
Oh, I'm
authorization.
They
sure they
certainly do.
will.
They will. Okay.
And so they're going to have to whittle
Okay.
it down in conference committee, and then that, whatever they agree to, is sent to the governor, I believe, and that's what the governor would approve. But then once it's even approved, then
That's
it's
the
that
process
separate
after it's
process,
approved. If we're
right?
still in the mix after it's
Right.
approved, that we still have to kind of
That's right.
work through
Advocate,
some
right.
advocacy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So just one question, Megan. We have 500,000 in the House version?
Yes.
If these
So
separate
it was a
projects-
separate,
That's
it was a
an
separate
separate thing.
request.
No, well, I guess what I'm trying to make sure I understand it, like, because I get the whole, like, House, Senate, different versions reconciled, but do we have 500,000 in one for this project and a separate 300,000 in the Senate for different projects?
600.
600.
600,000, sorry.
Yeah, so the House version that was approved by the House had 500,000. And then when the state senator's office reached out and said, do you have a $600,000 project? I said, I'd love for you to support this $100,000 one. And yeah, sure, we have $600,000.
So maybe there's both in the Senate?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe, we don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But okay,
Well, the
Good
combined,
synergies.
the
I don't know when
combined
they're
bill is
voting on it.
likely both projects will be in the combined bill.
Yeah,
yeah, okay.
hopefully.
That's,
So I think this is something that we're
we'll
going to
see
have
how
to
it shakes
keep
out.
watching and get
Yes,
updates to
absolutely.
going forward.
I
So
get it.
great, but it's all good news. So thank you, Megan, for being ready to submit that. It sounds like, the team has been working on this for a while, so it's nice that we can take it off the shelf and submit it.
I think the credit really, the transportation plan has been an incredible tool to help us
Yeah.
act quickly.
It's great.
So kudos to the team, the Transportation Advisory
Yeah.
Committee and all the people that are working hard on that.
It's great.
So I have a few more items that I wanted to mention to you. We did, through the adoption of the fiscal '27 state budget, the town will receive $205,000 in additional state aid. I know I've mentioned this to you before, but I just want to keep mentioning this, or give it a little bit of airtime. Also, the governor adopted a supplemental budget for fiscal '26 that includes some additional funding for extraordinary winter operations expenses, and the town of Concord will receive $279,796. So that will be coming to us, and we will need to decide what to do that. We could potentially just let it fall to free cash. We could allocate it to further reduce the increase in the 27 tax rate. So we have some discussions that we would like to have with the select board before any decisions.
Yeah, no,
are made.
That's great.
And so, Carrie, just to add, the state aid for FY '27, was that budgeted, or is this like a over and above what
This
we
is
expected?
over and above our estimates.
Okay, so it's,
So 205,000
Yep.
over and above our estimates.
okay.
And and we just already made movements of money to cover over our shortfall in the snow
That's-
That's-
removal
yes.
account. So
That's
this is
correct.
just
So-
now
For
extra
FY
money.
'26, yes, yeah.
So
Yep.
CFO Barrett will be here at next week's
Yep.
meeting and talking all things related to budget fiscal
Mm.
26 and 27, and we'll provide some updates to you, but I did want to mention that.
And Carrie, can I just ask one question about that state aid? Is that is it Chapter 90 that's mostly the roads program, or is it a specific?
So
State aid
Chapter
program.
90 is the roads
Right.
program funding. That is not part of what we call our cherry sheet state aid. That's over
Okay.
and above. So
Okay.
the two major components for state aid are Chapter 70, the school
Yep.
education aid, and then the unrestricted general government
Okay,
aid.
so it's general.
So the combination of those net $205,000 more than
Okay.
what we planned for, after we take into account any of the offset receipts. So, you know, the MBTA, we pay
Yes.
an
Yeah.
an assessment is deducted from state aid. So that
Okay.
205 is net.
Okay,
But there's, on Chapter 90, there's a specific allocation for Concord.
There- There is, and it's based on lane miles. Yeah,
but this is unrestricted.
this is
This is different,
unrestricted,
separate from-
yes.
Great.
So I did also want to mention that on Friday, I received word from attorney Stephanie Kiefer, who's representing the Novo 40B development, that EOHLC has approved the final application on that project. So we executed the final documents today. Their team has a site visit scheduled with the Natural Resources Division staff to go through some of the final site conditions
Great.
for that project. They expect to get that underway shortly. The building permit associated with that project, this is building permit alone. There are some other permits that will be, other permit fees that will be paid, but building permit alone, $734,133. So that's significant. That is a receipt that will come in the current fiscal year 27. It's not something, of course, not something that we use to balance our budget. And so at some point, we would like to have a conversation with the select board about that, whether or not we, are we going to try to do something specific with that, such as, let it fall to free cash and maybe allocate that to the capital project stabilization fund or some other project. Or, of course, it could be used just to further offset property taxes. Just to let you know, order of magnitude, the Thoreau 40B project, that's still moving forward. That building permit is $529,147, and that will be paid probably within the next couple of months as well, certainly before we're talking about setting the tax rate for fiscal 27.
Great.
I have a couple more things,
So
but
just
I have
a
questions.
question about building permits. I assume that there's some basic alignment between the scale of your project and the amount of time that the inspections have to take. You know, your electrician and your plumbing and everybody has to come in and verify everything's been done properly. These are very large numbers. What percentage of these numbers is actually going to be expended by the town in order to, do the permitting work, do the on-site work that needs to be done?
Yeah, I mean, I can ask Elisa Sandoval to
Yeah.
put something together. I
Yeah,
couldn't tell you off the
I
top
mean,
of my head.
We're talking about, like, let's put the money here, let's put
Yeah,
it there,
yeah.
but we're going to need to expend money to inspect these
Just-
buildings
yeah.
before they can be,
Right.
get a certificate of occupancy. So that's kind of the question I had, is how much of the money that actually comes in.
But these are existing staff.
Yeah.
to do
They're
that.
Right,
existing
but still-
staff, but they will spend staff
The
time
permit
doing it.
fees were, if I'm not mistaken, I think they were revised this last year, weren't they?
Yeah, these
Um,
applications are
January
under the
1st.
old fee schedule, which is $12 per thousand
Okay.
of value.
Okay.
The new schedule is $14
Okay,
per thousand.
I don't know. Lisa,
okay.
you wanna know?
Oh, Elisa,
Okay.
Elisa, you have your hand
Oh.
raised. Do you want to?
Yes, I just wanted to say that, that the building permit fee does cover existing staff time, and it wouldn't necessarily, there wouldn't be necessarily other charges in addition to existing staff time. Not anticipated, at least.
Thank you.
Okay.
So just a couple of more items. I want to note that Fire Captain Keith Catoni, this is his last shift. He is retiring at the end of his shift tomorrow morning after 24 years of service. He's been a very valuable member of the fire department, and while we're happy for him, we're somewhat sad for ourselves because he's been a great, newly promoted into the rank of captain probably 2 years ago or so, but again, been with the department in the town for 24 years. I did notice that unfortunately the monthly projects report did not get included in the agenda packet. We will circulate that tomorrow. We are now starting year 2. I think we did nine months of the report in fiscal '26, but we are into year 2. I'm happy to take feedback. I have had a request from select board members to include some information on the water filtration plant project, to provide a monthly update on that. I also had a recent request for the Beatty roof project, so we will be including that. But if there are other items that you would like to see in the report, please reach out and let me know. And I will mention that we are working on our monthly operations report. I'm going to go through it with staff. We will circulate it to the board for some feedback. There's some good information in there, so we're looking to track, just on a monthly basis. You can see the activity in the various departments, how monthly activity compares to the prior month, and then any trends that we're tracking. We'll have some information on overtime expense, and I think a lot of useful information, or I'm hoping people find it useful, because we are spending some time pulling this together, but I think this is the information that people would like to see on a more regular basis. So those were, actually, I did have another item for you on just the fiscal '28 budget, and I don't know if you want to talk about that briefly now or under the goals section, but we have our calendar for fiscal '28 budget development, and I've identified 3 points in time where we'd like to be able to come to the select board to get some feedback. I have copies of the calendar that I'm happy to circulate, and maybe as we're putting agendas together for those meetings, we've got a September, I think an October and a December time that we would like to come to the board just for some feedback. Similar to what we did last year,
Yeah.
which was a little bit more than what we've done in the past.
Great. So I know we're talking about a lot of budget material or financial topics next week on our agenda, so maybe we can just put those dates in and talk about it then as well.
Sure.
Yeah, and it's part of that conversation, Carrie, and you mentioned sort of the capital projects,
Yeah.
which is sort of like our report on current capital projects. I don't know if it makes sense there, or we can talk about it next week in the financial piece around sort of the cleanup of the older capital projects. Not necessarily line by line, but maybe holistically, sort of an update on how that
Yeah,
is progressing, or
I
how
did
that,
ask-
how that tracks.
Sorry, I didn't mean
Go
to
ahead. No,
interrupt.
go ahead.
I did ask Jennifer about that. I also took a look through that just for a historical perspective, and gave them some notes to look at. What I did see is we had about $3 million or so that was related to water enterprise. And so it's understandable why that hasn't moved forward. There was about the same that was in road bridge culvert repairs before the stormwater utility. And so sometimes those projects can be delayed because things need to happen in sequence. I did see about $1 million for CPS, and so that's not, they've had, their capital budgets have been less in the last few years, but that's not terribly unusual. I did see, I think it was 1.5 million that was related to the Warner's Pond dredging that I think we are ready to release. And then there were some other smaller items, but I did provide some notes and feedback for finance to help them
Okay.
kind of work through
Yeah.
those. But Jennifer will provide an update on that.
Yeah, we can get
Next
into it
week.
in the financial discussion.
Yeah.
I just was
Great.
thinking about the capital projects and how we make sure we continue to
Yes.
work through that and stay updated on it,
Yeah.
that's all.
Yep.
There was one chunk of funding that was related to facilities that I thought at the 2022 annual town meeting, the capital budget actually reappropriated some of that. So we're checking on that as well, because we were showing some things that I thought that we had attended to already, but it may be that was the intention that
Okay.
didn't happen.
Okay. Well, we'll hear more next week then. Thank you. Great. All right, well, thank you, Carrie. Next on our agenda is an update from MCI Concord, and I believe Elisa is remote.
Yes, I'm right
Okay.
here. Let me just share my screen.
Sure.
Does this look okay to you?
Yep.
Okay. So tonight I am going to focus on the results of the public survey of the two illustrative plan options that were presented during the charrette. So this was an online survey that was posted on the project website, on news and notices. And there was also special outreach to get younger folks, such as through the high school and through the youth sports leagues, to get additional input on the two illustrative plans. And over 542 responses were collected overall, and that the survey was open between June 16th and July 5th. So very good response rate for an online survey. One good thing about it as well is that there were a lot of new people that were participating in the survey that didn't attend any of the charrette events. So that was a good way to reach out to a different audience and get different input. One thing is that the respondents typically were skewed a bit towards longer term residents and older residents, but we did have a pretty good response rate for people between the ages of 30 and 49. So that was a pretty good response rate, evenly distributed on those age groups. So in general, some of the highlights from this survey input was that people were really excited to see, that there was a vision for the site, excited to see new additional housing, that was being added. There were concerns, obviously, as well that were expressed around capacity, impacts to traffic, roads, schools, municipal services. Those definitely were flagged. But general tone was excitement. And it was interesting to see that both of the plan options were rated pretty similarly. So people found things to like about each of the site plan options. And so some of the things that were highlighted with option one, which I'll show later, was people really liked the idea of having the trailside neighborhood with the kind of the smaller scale row housing along with pedestrian streets along the rail trail, and they were excited to see the network of green spaces. So those were kind of the higher ranked attributes that people liked. And then with option two, they really liked a lot of the same things. They liked the idea of the trailside neighborhood. They liked the idea of having outdoor recreation space and really a lot of different kinds of public and green spaces toward throughout the site, as well as preserving the warden's house and the White Row House. So really interesting. There was people were really excited about the new housing and just the variety and diversity of housing. They were excited to see new retail. That really came up a lot, that people were excited to see new retail options, businesses, restaurants. In particular, people were excited to see things like a grocery store. So, definitely interest in businesses, as well as the green space and parks and trails, and just overall walkability, that it's near a rail trail, that it's in walking distance to the commuter rail station. And, as mentioned before, the bigger concerns were really traffic, what the rotary, issues with the rotary and congestion with that, school capacity. And, there were folks that were concerned about the housing density and scale, as well as the overall infrastructure and tax impact. So what were some of the respondents talking about? They, definitely, as I mentioned, traffic, Route 2 was a big topic. They were interested, they had mixed opinions actually about the housing density and the height, really kind of split into two different views. Is that some people really like the amount of housing that, and some folks actually said they thought 1,000 units was exactly a good way, good amount of housing, or even wanted more housing. And there were folks that really, wanted to see less housing and lower building heights, like no more than 3 or 4 stories. So there was definitely mixed opinions on that. There are trade-offs, with having different housing, and the taller buildings can sometimes allow for shorter buildings on other areas of the site. So really interested to see how that plays out in the final site plan. So, and there was questions about the relocation of DPW. That was something that some respondents were just curious on why it was being relocated. And then just talking about the building height a little bit more, the diversity of heights. Generally, people were, had a pretty good, positive view of having building heights at a higher level, but there was some mixed opinions on, well, they weren't exactly sure. It was a kind of mixed response on the building heights. However, when you talked about building heights and having higher heights, that could allow for lower scale housing on other parts of the sites, such as 2 to 3 story townhouses. People were a little bit more in agreement with that type of approach. So in terms of what could be improved and added, people thought, housing, having different opinions about the total units and density and what fits with Concord's character. There was also interest in perhaps a little bit more commercial and retail on the site to see if that could help to support greater variety of different kinds of businesses, and also help to support the commercial tax base in town. And there were also things that people thought can be improved with the parking configuration. There were a lot of people that felt that there was probably too much parking provided. There were some people that thought not enough parking was provided, but there were concerns flagged about the parking configuration in general. So, option 1, there were questions about traffic and access. And option 2, there were questions about, green space, and really seeing if the green space could be expanded or consolidated into a larger area. So interesting to note that, in terms of how people answered, a little bit more interest from people age 49 and younger in more commercial and retail, kind of more places to run around, do activities with families, maybe have places to support weekly errands. So that was interesting. In terms of the respondents age 15 older, there was a little bit more questions about the DPW relocation, and then a bit more focus on their side in terms of really wanting the trail side pedestrian environment, questions about the housing mix, and And so, overall, this has been really good feedback. I think really comprehensive feedback, and this feedback is really going to be used by the consultant team to make changes to the illustrative plans and really assess ways that really understand how transportation issues could impact the site and really propose some changes to the site plans that can help to address this. And then also really evaluating the next phase of this project is really evaluating the fiscal impacts to make sure that this is a project that is revenue positive for the town and that, really taking into account tax base and school impacts. And really to explore the public realm and to make sure that the open space is really well-planned and interconnected and usable. And to really strengthen that rail trails connection with the commercial mixed-use core, and consider how to address the questions around the potential relocation of public works and understanding that and how to better to kind of better explain that publicly. And so that's, kind of where it stands right now. The consultant team is busy refining the plans. We have our September 9th confirmed public meeting that will be a public presentation of the refined illustrative plan. And just, here are the two options that were presented during the charrette week, and this is what respondents were reacting to as well. And then just highlighting some of the work that is being done right now and is going to be coming out in the next month is the fiscal impact analysis. The consultant team is going to be doing a assessment of transportation mobility. It will not be a extensive, comprehensive review, but it will be a moderate review of the transportation side and traffic impacts. There will also be more attention paid to the open space and public realm aspects, and we're also looking at public works and potentially how the footprint of public works might be condensed, made a little bit smaller to allow for all the uses and kind of amenities that people wanted to see at the MCI site. So that is also in the works. So they're working on site plan revisions through late July and August. And some of the things they're looking at in the fiscal impact analysis is really how do the types of uses and amount of development affect the fiscal impacts to the town, to schools, and how does the fiscal analysis suggest certain development program ranges. So really looking at, depending on the number of units, depending on public spaces, public amenities, how does that impact the town's fiscal impacts. And then another area that is being looked at is really transportation mobility, looking at different aspects such as trip generation, that is traffic, site access, mode share, how do people get to the site? Are they walking? Are they biking? Are they taking the train? Parking, and really making sure that the rail trail is connected and integrated into the site. And this is just an overview of how they see, the biking, walking routes, and how they really see people driving to and from the site, different access points. There is a concern about potentially having only one entrance and exit, so there is likely a need to have that exit out onto Route 2 as part of the site. And then looking at public realm, the overall green space, as I mentioned, streetscape, riverfront, and the rail trail integration. And this is just talking about just showing the different options. And then, as I mentioned, looking at public works more in depth and consultant team is working with Public Works to ensure that the wastewater treatment plant is taken into account within the site planning, and working closely with Public Works and the Weston and Sampson, the Public Works consultant. And that is all I have for now. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, Dean? Paul?
Yeah, Elisa, thanks. So option 1 and option 2 in the survey were kind of equally favored or disfavored. I'm trying to reconcile that as far as Public Works. One of these has Public Works, one of them doesn't. And only 18% of the people had Public Works on their mind. And of course, running in parallel here was the Land Use Working Group's recommendations to put Public Works on the site. So I guess my question is the team proceeding with option 1, revisions of option 1, with Public Works on the site for trying to have a more compact profile, even though the public sort of had equal preference for with or without Public Works? I'm just trying to kind of find out where we are versus the other processes going on.
Yes, I think the plan is now that the final plan will include Public Works as part of the site plan. At least that, to my knowledge, that is going to be the preferred site plan, just because that was sort of the mission that was given for this, the MCI Master Plan Steering Committee, as well, is to consider Public Works as part of the site layout.
Yeah, the charge
If
of
that
the
makes
master
sense.
plan did include consideration based on the Land Use Working Group's Phase 1 recommendations. So the charge was written to assume and support location of Public Works on MCI.
Yeah, so that begs the question. So why was option 2 actually presented to the public?
I think it was presented to show what an alternative would be if it were the case that Public Works was not able to locate at MCI for any number of reasons, but it was an option that they didn't think they could just completely take it off the table, just to see how it would work without Public Works.
Plus, I think when we were thinking about the master plan, none of us knew if we could support the housing and have Public Works at the same time. So part of this, some of these simulations are to test out some of that. And I think we saw in both cases the housing could be supported with and without Public Works. So,
Okay, thank you.
right. Dean Cameron, question?
Yeah, I got a couple questions. So, remind me, option 1 or maybe both, was there an explicit number of housing units that was contemplated?
Yes, so both of those options could support a range of housing units from 800 to 1,000 units, and that was sort of the recommendation that we had from HLC on what the state would like to see at MCI Concord. And so the consultants were working on the premise that let's design this to see if that number of units could fit on the site. They have option 1 and option 2 have slightly different ways of presenting the number of units. So, for instance, option 1 has a bit of a higher, a taller building, multi-story building towards the Rotary, and that is sort of offset by row house type development along the trail side. So kind of lower density development with a taller building. And then option 2 is the building towards the Rotary is lower. I think it's like 4 stories, and then a bit more of a dense development along the trail.
So, yeah, I guess, is there contemplation of an option or how the design might change if there was a lower number of housing units?
Yes, I mean, I think that these can definitely be modified if, for instance, a lower number of units would be desired, you'd probably have lower building heights. You might have more, row house type development instead of the as many of the kind of more multifamily units. It is, or you may have just fewer, you might have less of the area covered with housing, so you might have additional open space. So there's a kind of a lot of different ways you could modify the site plan to lower the number of units.
But I think the main way was through the building height, right, which you don't really get a good feel for on these graphics, but if you just raise or higher the heights of the buildings, you can add or lower a lot of housing.
Yeah, no, I get it. I guess I'm a little concerned with a process where we sort of go, well, okay, if we want or end up with a lower number of units, what does it look like? And the answer is, well, we don't really, it could be this, that, something else. Like, we're not really giving people sort of a, hey, here's what that could look like, right?
But I think part of what's going to happen over the next month is there's sort of some of the financial modeling and the other modeling is trying to see where there are sort of extremes in the design and where it's not well supported. So it might be, I'm not saying housing, but in different dimensions. Retail, for example, one of the discussions that's come up in the master plan discussion is some people have said they want more retail, but then we're also saying be careful because we don't want to take away from West Concord, right? And there's also a concept that a certain amount of housing can naturally support a certain amount of retail. So they're really testing out some of those and bringing some of that information to the modeling process. So I do think that in the next month, we have to answer some of those questions and narrow down the options. So, for example, yes, we'll put public works there, and we'll have to sort of give more direction on what is the reasonable housing that we want there to sort of test out some of the financial modeling as well. And that's what will happen over the next month.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I just would advocate for if there was something that looked at, contemplated a lower number of housing units, what would the design look like? What could it be?
Design, yep.
And then, so we've started to mention now the financial analysis. Who's doing that?
Elisa, do you want to speak to the consultant? I was going to just note that there was a presentation of the financial model to the master plan committee 2 weeks ago. It is by a third-party consultant. They have a model. They take a number of inputs into that model. And more importantly, so it was a sort of a preliminary view from my perspective of what the model was. But what I understand has happened in the last week is there was a real deep dive with Jennifer Barrett going through the details of that financial model to make sure that all the assumptions that are going into that model are really accurate and reflective of our finances. There's also going to be input from Bob Conry from the schools to make sure that the assumptions from a school perspective are also well represented. So they have a pretty well-structured model. The modeling is done by housing type, if you will, so they build up revenues and they build up costs by housing type so that they can also change that mix of housing. To your point, Cameron, like what would it, if we change that mix, what would that do to the financials? So you see sort of net cost impact based on the housing type, and so you can play with that mix.
And the mix between commercial and residential.
Yes,
That
right.
financial model, the commercial impact on schools, for example, is basically zero. So,
Right.
So as they run those models, you can
Right, and
change the mix based on something like that.
right, and it's not just housing unit. I mean, so the housing units are also 1, 2, 3 bedroom, right? But we also haven't asked the question, what percentage are going to be sort of age restricted? Do we want age restricted? So there are a lot of those questions that can come into that model.
But it's a different, because it's not the same people doing the.
No, there's a sub-consultant, and Elisa, I don't know all the consultants, and I'm forgetting his name.
Sure. It actually is somebody on the Stantec team that is doing the fiscal impact analysis.
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay.
So probably more to follow in a future meeting on some of that modeling, how that's working.
I
what's
mean, I
going
just
to-
think it's something we should, because look, I mean, models are
Yep.
great, but there's sensitivity. I mean, it's all about the assumptions you
Right.
put in.
Yep,
so,
absolutely.
So I am personally curious and would love to see at some point to the select board just something that sort of tests kind of, or gives some visibility into the assumptions that's going into how we're doing that analysis.
So I did attend
Yeah.
the same finance committee thing. It was not the finance committee, but the.
Was it the master plan?
Committee
Yeah.
Finance
Right.
report that they got from the consultant. It is a sophisticated process, Cameron. I think that we need to really scratch around in it. When I saw it top level, I said, well, you seem to have the right, buckets to put stuff in. Are you putting the right thing in each bucket is really more the question.
Right.
So it's a sophisticated process.
Yeah.
Right, I think
yeah.
there's probably an opportunity, I know the master plan committee wants that to come back and see
Yeah.
more detail, so I think
Yeah.
when that happens, I think we'll open an invite to the select board to that meeting, I think that would be a good
Yeah,
opportunity.
and I'm asking these questions a lot
Yeah.
because I'm trying to think ahead to,
Absolutely.
like, hey, we're sitting in town meeting next year, for example, right? And people starting to say, did you do the traffic analysis?
Yeah.
Did you do the financial analysis? Hey, what did you base the financial analysis on? Oh, okay, hey, look,
Yep.
this is how we did that to make sure that, we covered
Yep.
this base and we went through it this way, kind of thing, right? Because otherwise, I think people will say, oh, hold on.
No.
Go back
Yep.
and do your homework kind of
Right.
thing, so.
And I think we can't wait till then, I think we're going to have to answer those questions on September 9th, when we do the presentation. So on September 9th, we're going to take the feedback that was heard, the analysis that was done, and represent the illustrative plan with an explanation of how we got to where we were. So
Yep.
I hope that'll be a good process when we get there.
Just one last question, following up on Cameron's question about reducing the number of housing units, how that affects the plan. Lisa, you mentioned at least two options. One is that you have the same coverage but lower the building heights. But the other one is create more open space and keep the building heights. I think that would be at least those two options would be really important to show the public. Because I know there were some comments on open space or lack of enough open space. So showing what, keeping high building heights but opening up
Yeah.
space, I think that would be.
Or more commercial, or whatever. I
Right.
mean, there are
Right.
there's enough
Yeah.
variables there that's all. I just want to make sure we're sort of considering those different
And,
variables.
and in the illustrative option 1 and option 2 pictures that they're drawing, it would appear to me that it's all surface level parking. And a small parking deck might be an appropriate thing.
The upper left-hand corner is a garage.
Yeah.
It's a garage in the top left corner on option 1.
Top left corner.
That it's surrounding, I think it's surrounding a
Oh,
garage. So the
okay.
building is on
The
the outside, the
internal
parking is
garage.
inside. Did I
Oh,
get
I
that
see.
right, Lisa?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay,
It's option 1 has a garage, interior garage.
okay. But the semicircular pieces towards the river
Surface.
look like a lot of
Surface.
surface level parking. And I think,
Right.
there are plenty of opportunities there.
Right.
You go to Moody Street, there's a little
Yeah.
off-street parking that's,
Yeah.
it's only 2 deck. It's
Yeah.
not a
Yeah.
big one,
Yep.
Yeah.
but it's
But it's
sort of
double the
obscured.
spaces.
It's right, you can have a lot more
Yeah.
spaces with
Right.
2 decks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
And last thing, since I've had transportation and congestion on my mind,
yeah.
a little but important piece of this, the roundabout that Jeff Speck seems to like there.
On Commonwealth?
On Commonwealth Avenue, which would accommodate input and output from the site, input and out from Route 2 across Commonwealth Avenue. It just seems like that could be rethought, because that's a lot of traffic going around a roundabout, which is probably similar to what we have in Concord Center, a roundabout like that. And that, traffic flows, but not a lot of
Yeah.
it. So,
Well, I think it's a good point to understand the volume anticipated.
Yep, I think that's part of the
And-
traffic study.
Yeah, what that
Right,
means,
to understand,
what that means for that design, yeah.
right. And as an entrance and exit point too, and also, the designs don't show an entrance off of Route 2 here.
Right,
So, I mean,
right,
I'm
right.
sorry, I'm getting my projects confused. The Route 2 Rotary doesn't. This one definitely wants it, so that's a key priority. So,
Cool.
all right, good. Thank you, Elisa, appreciate it, considering you weren't even in that
Thank you.
meeting.
I know.
Welcome back from vacation. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
All right, so next up, Americans with Disability Act Transition Plan Review. And I see Jess here, and you have
Good evening.
Compadre.
Jess Porter, Assistant Town Manager. I am here this evening with Emmanuel Andrade from KMA. He's the consultant that worked with the Commission on Disability to do our self-evaluation and our transition plan. The last time this was done was about 20 years ago, so we're definitely long overdue. So I am pleased to turn that over to Emmanuel. And I also know that Jennifer Brook, the chair of the Commission on Disability, is on the Zoom this evening, and we also have a couple of other members of the commission, either here physically or on Zoom as well. So I just wanted to share that.
Great. So I know there was a whole report and a presentation in our packet. Presentation came a little later today, but I don't know. Are you sharing, Jess?
I'm
Great.
trying to.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good evening. I appreciate the time
Yeah,
this
good
evening
evening.
to explain our project and some of the highlights of this project. As Jessica mentioned, I'm Emmanuel. I am an associate principal at KMA. We're a small architectural firm, accessibility consultants in Watertown. This was a 5-month project.
Oh, the microphone, you have to speak very close to it.
Thank you. This was a 5-month project. We started the project in February and finalized the project in June, which was a requirement of the grant that funded this project. We met with the Commission on Disabilities between February and June, and here we are. We met the requirements of the grant, and I'm here to highlight some of the things we found and things that we're recommending to the town. To start, there are 2 components to an ADA self-evaluation transition plan. Of course, the first component, the self-evaluation, our firm utilize evaluation tools to figure out the current level of accessibility in the municipality. The first one is we review documents, we review policies and procedures. We evaluate the digital accessibility. That means reviewing the website, reviewing interactive tools like My Senior Center, My Rec, Civic Plus, the platform for the website and also for hosting the agendas and meetings. We interviewed town staff, and we also performed accessibility audits of facilities, right? So there were 15 facilities, 9 town buildings, and 6 outdoor facilities like community gardens, playgrounds, parks, and ball fields. Next slide.
Sorry, I mean, just before we go on, so we did a project here. We did it because we refresh every few years. We did it because there were some deficiencies that we needed to address. Like, what was the impetus for why we did this project?
Right, so
And you know, just the scope of what it was
Yeah.
intended to entail, I think just
yeah,
maybe help set the stage for us if you could.
right. So municipalities are required to update their ADA self-evaluation transition plan. The last one was from 2005, so it's been 22 years.
Aha, so there you
yes,
go.
that's
It's been,
it.
it's been,
Yes.
You
it's been
said that
22,
earlier,
it's been
yeah.
21
Yeah,
years since
yes.
we've done one. There we go. So,
Yes.
okay. And a transition, when you say transition plan, it implies we're like moving it from somebody to somebody else.
The transition plan is moving from a non-compliant into a fully compliant,
There we go.
ADA-compliant
Now I got it.
municipality. Yeah, no, great questions, which is a good segue to the next
Yeah,
slide
there you go.
of the requirements of
Awesome.
the ADA, right? So this is something that was enacted in the early 90s. It's about civil rights, was actually built on top of the Civil Rights Act of '64, and establishes a new protected class, people with disabilities. Right, so this is about civil rights, next slide, and not about building code, right? So the town of Concord is a Title II facility or a Title II entity that is applicable to local government, state government. And that means that the town of Concord does not have to require 100% of its facilities accessible. It means that when you look at all the programs, services, and activities offered by the town, that when viewed in its entirety, the town is accessible. So and that's called program accessibility, which is different than Title III facilities, which is the private facilities, private entities, the movie theater, the restaurants. So as a municipality, you have a different set of parameters for accessibility, and that's called program accessibility. The best way to explain it is a municipality has 5 ball fields. Not all 5 ball fields need to be accessible. Make one accessible. A municipality has 3 playgrounds. One has to be accessible to start. Once you have one of each type of facility accessible, then you move on to make the second ball field and the second playground accessible.
That's helpful to know, actually.
Well, the good news is we didn't find any major red flags in blocking, obstructing program accessibility in your town, which is really great news. We thought that the town demonstrated strong structural commitment towards accessibility. Some of the notable examples, you have an ADA coordinator who works full-time in this position at a high level, very visible position in town. There is a public notice on accessibility, so every building should have a public notice at the entrance saying the town will not discriminate residents based on disabilities. There is a grievance procedure process with internal policies for sharing those with commissions, with committees, with departments. You have a disability commission. Not every town in Massachusetts has one. You have one that has been around for a long time and very vocal and very engaged and very committed. The town just relaunched a website, which is mostly accessible. Compared to the work that was done in 2005, a lot of great work, a lot of good updates to existing buildings in the last 22 years. So those are really great things. What we found are minor deficiencies in accessibility, right? So perhaps accessible parking spaces were not 100% compliant. Sometimes they're missing the van designation sign. Sometimes they were slightly steep. Sometimes they were striped incorrectly. So, and we can apply that logic to many other aspects of a facility. The counters were just about too high, or the sidewalks were just steep, slightly steep. So what we found is very minor deficiencies that have a compounding impact on people with disabilities, right? So that is explained in our report for all 15 facilities, and you can learn more in detail, the details of what we found. As part of the transition plan, which is your plan to bring the town into full compliance with the ADA, we have programmatic recommendations. These are recommendations that are not related to the building environment, training people, purchasing technology, creating new policy or revising policy. And we also have physical recommendations, which is about the buildings. And recommendations for buildings are very black and white. And I'm an architect. It's very easy to understand them. Your parking spaces are not fully accessible, improve the parking spaces. Replace a ramp, make improvements to bathrooms. Those are easy to understand and more time consuming to achieve. But then we also have programmatic recommendations, right? So I have a few examples to share with you. And those are recommendations that we have for all departments. So for example, we have institute training for all frontline town staff, training on how to serve people with disabilities, how to accommodate people with disabilities, which is a lot of that the town already does. Especially certain departments are really good with providing services for people with disabilities. I'm thinking about the recreation department, the senior center. A senior arrives at the recreation department and says, listen, I don't have a computer. I can't sign up for pickleball classes, right? They have staff that is ready to say, all right, sit down with me, let's go over the brochure and register people, even though they don't have technology at home. So some of those things already happen in certain departments. The library department is another example. So it's really making sure that all departments, all 20 departments are doing the same.
So it's not so much institute training as much as it's, continue or
right.
ensure comprehensive training.
Yeah, agreed. It's really about enhancing what the good work you already have. Other example is making sure that establishing policies or procedures for town events. Town events can be this type of event. It can be anything to a reenactment, road race in town roads, farmers market. No matter the event, there are policies or there are recommendations in our report to make sure that these events that are open to the public are always accessible. They're advertised in an accessible manner. They're hosted in an accessible manner. And there's a lot of good information on that. Developing a service animal policy. The town does not have a policy. We're recommending take a look at what Newton does. They do it very well, and it's just a matter of learning and applying it here. Adopting language for rental agreements, use agreements, and vendor contracts. Always making sure that when you lease the use of a facility, you're reminding those who are using the facilities, using town facilities, they also have an obligation to ensure that whether, if it's a farmer's market, if it's a road race, whatever their activities are being hosted at your facilities, that they promote accessibility, they're not discriminating people with disabilities. And vendor contracts, also very important. Purchasing software. Not just believing that the vendor's claims that their software is 100% compliant. I don't know if the town hires for landscaping or other services, making sure that, or transportation even, it's making sure that vendors are aware of their obligations under the ADA and putting that in writing. Two things under programmatic recommendations for all departments. Eliminating patronizing, stigmatizing language from contracts. If you do a quick word search for handicap at the zoning bylaws, you still find this, old term that is not used anymore. And also further reviewing the website, right? We looked at the website at a cursory level. We're recommending the website to be deeper, have a deeper analysis by IT consultants specialized in accessibility, but most importantly, creating a centralized web page on the town website that deals with accessibility. We provided a few examples of other municipalities that are doing a phenomenal job. For example, Blackstone, right on the border with Rhode Island. They have a phenomenal Know Before You Go webpage, right? If you're coming to town hall, they tell you, here's where you're going to find accessible entrance, here where the bathrooms are. This building doesn't have an elevator, but you can find the lift on the left, right-hand corner of the building, of the lobby. You want to, bring your kids to the town beach for the first time and you're a brand new resident, right? You find that information on the website. Here's where you park. Here's where you find the ramp to the water. And there's an opportunity to provide that type of information for people with disabilities on the website. We also have some programmatic recommendations that are aimed at particular departments. So we have some recommendations for voting for the town clerk's department. We have some recommendations on hiring practices for the HR department, and also some built environment recommendations for the building inspectional services, that kind of department. Then we have built environment recommendations. Here's just an example of the Council on Aging, things you're going to find in the report, regrading accessible parking spaces or adding signs, regrading the walkways, lowering a portion of the counter, and making alterations to the bathrooms, right? So those are very black and white, and the reports have images and cost estimates and all that information. When I talk about facilities, I'm talking about buildings, but also outdoor facilities. So here's an example of a park where, all you need to do is add a parking sign, fix a tripping hazard between the sidewalk and the fitness area, making sure that there's an accessible path to the baseball, the soccer fields, right? So you have to provide an accessible path to the dugout, to the bleachers. If you provide concession stands and bathrooms to those amenities as well. So last but not least, the project is over. The town is now eligible with the study completed in the next round of MOD grants, which start next spring, to apply for project grants. And that means the town is eligible to apply for projects to deal with accessibility compliance up to $250,000. So it's very competitive. I think there's $6 million available to the entire state, but it will be the first time they hear Concord in their queue. So you have a lot of great opportunity for funding. But I'm also here, I'm using this opportunity to share some recommendations with you, the select board, right? So our report is aimed towards the work that the ADA coordinator does and the work that the commission does as the managers of the project. So what I would recommend to you tonight is prioritizing accessibility for my leadership on all leadership activities. That means thinking about accessibility early and often, especially in initial capital planning phases, right? So including accessibility as an ingredient, just like housing and plumbing and mechanical and structural is a major ingredient for an accessible town. Always including accessibility in town-wide goals. Thinking about accessibility. If it's a master plan, how is accessibility being addressed? If it's just benches on parks, how is accessibility being addressed? Working with the ADA coordinator and the Commission on Disabilities to customize accessibility-related policies. We have about a dozen policies that need to be either created from scratch or enhanced, because they're good, but they can be improved, and working with those folks on those policies. Allocating funding for accessibility needs. I mean upgrades to existing facilities, digital access, purchasing software, or providing training, for example, funding training. That is a big recommendation. And once funding is provided, also providing accountability, right? Establishing, first of all, requiring reports on the implementation of this plan periodically, if it's every 6 months or every year, because this plan is not static. It's always, it's always ongoing. There's always something to fix, but you don't have to fix everything tomorrow. There's a time frame between up to 3 years. And even if you don't get to do all of this in 3 years, you can update the plan that you're going to get in year 4, year 5. The goal is to always update the plan, even if you can't achieve everything in the plan. And one last thing, establishing protocols for accessibility reviews in town projects. Again, thinking about accessibility early and often. Everything that is discussed, if it's a new project, asking the questions, who's reviewing this new project for accessibility compliance? One example of that is, the major project you're working on in town with MCI Concord. The good news is, I believe DCAM is managing that project or assisting, and you're in great hands with DCAM. They have an in-house accessibility group thinking about accessibility on your behalf. And so that is an example of a project you don't have to worry. But I know that you have multiple other projects, small, medium, and large, that accessibility should always be reviewed. And with that, I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Oh, that's great. And I know I went through the report. It's quite extensive. And I appreciate that you actually prioritized some of the recommendations in there. And I know there's a lot of policy recommendations that are due by the end of December, which I think is important because you do need to know where your risks are. I wanted to ask one question because you just mentioned something about 3 years to do this. Is the working assumption is that, this is a compliance plan, basically, even though it's taken us 20 years to update it. What was the reference to 3 years? Is the assumption that this plan was active for 3 years and then is revised, or a certain portion of this is to be done in 3 years?
Yeah. So there is no real time frame, but the Department of Justice offers best practices, and that is 3 years, every 3 years, to update the plan.
Okay.
because this project was funded by a grant, MOD also makes a requirement that plans be updated frequently, right? So if you're going to go back to the MOD to ask money for projects, there will
Yep.
be, also making sure that your self-evaluation transition plan is updated periodically.
Yep. Yeah, makes sense. No,
So 3 years
appreciate
it's a good best practice.
that. Okay. And I saw, the reference to capital planning in your report, there is sort of this standard list of things that every building needs to have. I see that. And it's actually very expensive to make a lot of these improvements. So I think our work is cut out in terms of trying to prioritize where we need these. And I'm sure,
And even when we've made ADA improvements, like the library, the ramp is not, it's not appropriate. It's too steep, is one of the reports.
Yeah, I know.
I was like, wow,
Really?
that's not
After
that
that?
old a ramp. I was shocked that
Yeah.
ramp needs to be, brought down a bit
Right.
because it's too steep.
well, and it takes a long time for these
Yeah.
projects to
Yeah.
get into the cycle. I think of how long it's taken us to do Harvey Wheeler. It's a very long time. It's still not done, but it's close. So let me just ask Paul. Let's go around.
Yeah, thank you, a really thorough report, and I do like the prioritization, and there are 40 pages of recommendations, which
Right.
kind of takes your breath
Daunting.
away. Say something about, you use the word compliance. Compliance for me is sort of, you're either in compliance or out of compliance. If you're out of compliance, you need to get in compliance, and if you don't get there, there's some consequences. Tell me, and you mentioned 3 years, and how do we take the word compliance here in terms of priorities? Because we have a lot of priorities in town. If this is something that's urgent, we need to get into compliance or blank. Tell me your interpretation of what it means to be in or out of compliance here.
Right, so as an accessibility consultant, I'm hired to come to town, and I'm the guy with the white gloves looking at your furniture if you have dust on the furniture. It's a very detailed work, and as you said, it's either compliant, the parking spaces are below 2%, 2.0% of slope, or if it's 2.1, I will flag it in my report, it's non-compliant. I think compliance is really, what needs to be paid attention is making sure that in terms of program accessibility, that the town is not discriminating people with disabilities. I think what I would take or recommend the select board is looking at making sure that one of each type of facility is fully accessible. So for example, there's the Emerson Field and the Ride Owl Park. Choose one park for whatever reason. Maybe it's the most centrally located park, or maybe it's the one that has the largest ball field, the largest traffic of people, and focus on that one. And once that one is done, maybe focus on the second one. However, sometimes you don't have two of each type of facility. You only have one town beach, right? So that is a priority in my mind, making sure that folks who are taking advantage of the activities in that facility, focusing on that facility. So fix the parking there, fix the ramp, provide an accessible boat launch so that everyone can get into the water. I think that's, for me, compliance is making sure that one of each type of facility is accessible as soon as possible.
So can I just jump in there with that point? So you made the example of ball fields. If we have 5 ball fields, start with one, make sure there's people
Yes.
can play who have a certain disability and they can access that. You have 10 teams, you have a schedule you have to make up. Do you always have to play the game for that team who might have some disabled child on it, on that field, because they can't get they can't get on the other fields? It seems as though that program would schedule all the 5 fields because it's got a lot of teams it's got to have on the fields. And that creates a constraint on the program,
Yep.
or it creates a constraint on that team. They can't play on any other field or whatever. So I'm trying to get to the question of how does that program actually become an accessible program when it's using all 5 of the fields
Yeah.
to mount the program?
That's a great question. It's a great factor to
Yeah.
be considered, right?
Yeah.
We don't know that when we come and inspect all your ball fields.
Yeah.
If providing one fully accessible ball field is not enough, and So for example, yes, the recreation department will have to know that. And whenever they have a player or a coach or a parent who needs an accessible ball field, yes, they would be scheduled for that particular ball field. But if
It's complex.
It's complex.
Very complex,
Okay.
yep.
It is complex.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
if you know that you need more than one, then that is a priority, right? Now you
Right.
have to make sure that at least two are accessible, one in this part of town and another one in another part of town.
I guess what it means, it means that the program being accessible is actually a function of who's using the program. The way you just defined that, you're saying that the program isn't accessible if you have 2 kids on 2 different teams or 3 kids on 3 teams. You can't put all 3 of them on the same field to play against each other. It's not a thing. So your program isn't accessible because you can't provide. But if none of the teams that year had a disabled child, you're good to go if you have one field because nobody needs it. I
Right.
mean, it's somewhat population dependent is what I'm gaining from
Yes,
your.
it's all about anticipation. You
Yep.
don't want to,
Okay,
you want to avoid the risk of having a new resident who then needs a baseball field and you don't have
And you
one.
don't have one.
And now you're trying to catch up.
Yep.
all right, yep.
It's
I
a
had
lot of
second- I
complex.
had a
Yeah.
second question
Well,
before you jumped in there, but it's okay.
I'm sorry, sorry,
Maybe this
Paul.
is a question for either Jessica or Kerry. So how does one go about budgeting the next 3 years? I mean, there's a great list and has priorities and the different types of initiatives.
Yes.
But just, I know you haven't done that yet, but how do you go
So
about doing
I
that?
can start, and then I'm assuming the town manager will finish. So the Commission on Disability is going to have regular agenda items now to be working through the report and trying to identify the things that they think would be worthwhile for putting forward. I expect it would be a capital request, something could potentially be a CPC request. As Emmanuel mentioned earlier, there's also the state grants, so because of the quick turnaround cycle with those, the soonest we'd be able to apply for something would probably be the year after next, simply because the way this grant worked, we had to identify the project, get the RFP out, issue the award, have all the work, it was like a 5-month turnaround, which was amazing that KMA was able to do that, but they don't give you these grants and give you a year or 2 to get the whole project done. It's an extremely fast turnaround, so there's no way we would be ready with that whole process for next year's grants, but hopefully the year after that. So those are kind of 3 different sources, and I don't know if the town manager wants to
So
add anything
I would
additional.
just add that on an annual basis, we fund facility improvements, kind of a blanket amount, and because we're operating in a lot of older buildings, it's what is, we know the, all of the different things that might go wrong, what is the thing that went wrong that year. So we do have some existing facilities funding, and I was surprised there were a number of small dollar items that I think we can make those improvements with existing funding, and then we will have to prioritize and include things in our 10-year capital plan, and again, be ready to apply for some of the grants. But honestly, the what you came up with was less than what I expected to see. I was almost a little anxious to open the report, and the report, it was better in total than what I expected.
Great. Cameron, any other?
Just who from the town would own this going forward, just like, so taking the report and kind of making sure that we're
Yeah, so our
doing something with it.
leader on this is Jess Porter, as one of the hats she wears is ADA coordinator,
coordinator.
so she would be taking the lead in working with our facilities department and then different departments on program accessibility.
Great,
Great.
sounds good, thanks.
But it's also a lot of work, so
It is.
thank you. It's a
Thank you.
great study, a lot of information there. And Jess, you have your hands full.
I did. It's okay.
Yeah, no, but it was a great report. I appreciate it. And we'll have to do a lot of prioritization, I think.
Indeed,
Yep.
indeed. But it's great having a commission that is willing to roll up
Yeah.
their sleeves and do the work. They're very involved. It's
Right.
the most involved commission I've seen in all the municipalities I've worked in, so kudos to them.
Yeah, it's great, great work. All right, well, we'll look forward to more updates.
Thank you.
And
Thank
we'll be
you.
talking about goals later, too, so this might appear again. So,
Great
all
work,
right,
thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving along, I know Mimi, I think, is next up. I'm going to talk about the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail mural, sorry. And I'll just remind all of you that are coming up, you have to use speak very close to the microphone. And there's one over here, so you have your own. Yep, thank you. Mimi?
Hello, I'm Mimi Graney, the Economic Vitality Manager.
Yep.
And I'm here seeking final approval for the installation of a mural on the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail at the Powder Mill Underpass. So you might recall when I got provisional approval. Since then, we convened an advisory team. Back in May, we developed a call for art that received a amazing 54 applications from some of the top muralists in the greater Boston area, as well as some international artists. Even though we said we were giving priority to Massachusetts folks, they thought they had a chance, and some of these people were incredibly talented. But we ended up going with a team that was actually already familiar here with Concord. So the design that we were seeking was one that really reflected the natural environment and the setting that it was in. Something that would allow passersby to still kind of stay in their own experience of the trail and feel like it was kind of in harmony and kind of extending that meditative process, especially that quieter area of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. So the finalists that the advisory team chose was work by Jane Holland and Laura Buscemi, who actually met by working on pianos on the town at the Concord Conservatory. So it kind of shows that how these projects can one to the other. So I wanted to invite the two of them to kind of answer your questions, and then yeah, if you can bring up the finalist design. So this is the final design, and if you can go through to what it looks like in context. So Jane and Laura, do you want to introduce yourselves and talk a little bit about your design?
Sure. So,
You
yes,
speak
like-
close to the microphone.
Okay, like
That'd be
Mimi
helpful.
said, Laura and I met each other on the piano project, and this project came right on the heels of that, and we both really were inspired by each other's work. Laura does a lot of like engaging animals and wildlife, and I do a lot of like graphic, just like flowing shapes, and I do a lot with trees and things like that. So we thought our style would really work nicely together, and we really just enjoyed each other's company and thought this was just a great experience, a great opportunity for us. And we went down and visited and saw the graffiti, so that was also a concern to try to like discourage that. So we've got some textures going on and things like that. But yeah, I don't want to take up the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the design that we've come up with is a perfect integration of both of our styles and ways of working, and we really think that this project would be a great addition to the trail in order to kind of harmonize nature and art and produce an enriching experience for travelers of the Bruce Freeman Trail of all ages. And we're hoping for this design to be very interactive as well. We've incorporated a lot of smaller details into it that we think would be great for people to kind of take a moment along the trail to stop and take a look at all the smaller details, and it kind of provides that enriching experience for people. In addition to the nature that surrounds them, they can also stop and observe this art piece.
Part of also what was really great about their design is some of the other designs looked incredibly gorgeous, and we thought like, oh, it really reflects a summer's day. And then one of the panelists was like, how's that going to feel in February?
Yeah.
And this one really kind of captured the seasonality across the, recognizing that people will be encountering it all times of the year, all ages, different points of view. So folks might recall the process from here. Should the select board approve it, it still needs to be approved by Mass DOT because they own the bridge. And unlike other murals and other artwork that the town has commissioned, where the town owned the artwork with the artist owning the copyright, Mass DOT requires that they're totally in charge. If they need to replace the mural or do whatever, they can have kind of full authority over it. But having worked, I've done some other projects on Mass DOT, and basically they just want to make sure that they can still take care of the bridge the way they need to without impediment. Right now I'm working on getting quotes to be able to power wash and prepare the walls, which is proving a little challenging because there's no electricity and no water, and it's a little inaccessible site, but still working away on that. And we're still on track. The goal is to start painting in September for it to be done kind of this painting season.
Great. Well, I think they're absolutely beautiful. I love the designs. So I have a question. So is the owl's going to have owl's eyes going to be open or closed? Have you made that decision yet?
So we tried it both ways
Did
because
ya?
we understood the concern. But it seemed like when they were closed, you kind of lost the personality of the owl. And we tried, I really tried to make it not scary.
Was the concern that the owl would be somehow
I think that was a
frightening?
comment.
The
I'm not
first
sure.
version, it looked like a very scary owl, and now it looks more like a little more sleepy, like an owl. And that was the other thing, is that the scale of the animals feel like it's right for how you're going to encounter them, and the scale of the tunnel, because you're only going to be a few feet away, as opposed to a lot of other artists like giant animals, but then you wouldn't kind of appreciate them in the same way.
I think they're beautiful. I am concerned because there has been graffiti in this tunnel. And one of the things you say about doing this is that it will mitigate graffiti and tagging. Is there any evidence that that's actually true? That-
Very, very ample evidence.
Oh,
This is
good.
a number one
That's excellent.
strategy
Yeah.
to address graffiti.
Good.
And yet you've treated it just in case there is some graffiti as well, if I
Yes.
understand. So it would be easy to maintain.
Fantastic.
Yes, and both Laura and I do have pieces that I haven't had anything tagged, have you?
No, I haven't. And I feel like those who do graffiti, once there's like an art piece in an area, they tend to like respect that space more.
And go somewhere
Cool.
else.
That's
Good.
great.
It's great.
Yeah, it was stated in the
Yeah.
narrative that this will mitigate it. And I'm like, wow, really? Okay.
Let's see.
So how durable is the artwork?
Very durable.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Well,
we're
there's not a lot of weather in the tunnel, but
Yeah.
we're definitely going to go through a series of stages to properly prepare the space. That includes, starting with the power washing and getting a durable primer that is suitable for this type of surface and material, and then using the proper exterior grade paints to paint it, and then we're also going to seal it after. So there's going to be multiple steps involved in ensuring that it has a long life.
It's great. And it's nice and light and bright. So I know that tunnel is kind of dark, but I think the artwork will really brighten it.
Yeah.
Cameron, any
The budget,
thoughts?
budget hasn't changed, is it the same?
It's still the
When you
same, that's
present it?
the money that I got. The quotes for just power washing, one quote I got was, I think, $5,400. So I'm looking at some other options to be able to do that, without taking the funds out of our contingency.
Okay, great. Other questions? No?
Yeah, the funds are from ARPA.
Okay, great.
this seems to incorporate everyone's spirit animal, so
Yes.
that'd be great.
It's a wonderful project. I look forward to it. So I think, and you need a vote of approval today. So Cameron.
Yeah,
you
so
wanna
I'd make a motion that we approve the, sorry,
Final.
yeah,
How
now I'm
about-
just going to the, there's a lot of pages here. Sorry, a motion to approve the mural for Powder Mill Road underpass on the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail.
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Congratulations and thank you. We really look forward to the artwork. It's going to be
I like your
wonderful.
Maine hat, too.
I know.
It used to be part of Massachusetts, so.
It's a good start.
All right, so next, is Joan Ferguson here? Joan, come on up. We're here to talk about a conservation restriction amendment. Yeah, feel free to come up to the table. I'll just, again, remind you to speak close to the microphone. And all your materials were in our packet, which I'm assuming we've all read, but we'll let you. Do you need something
put-
displayed?
Maybe, can you put this one
Megan,
up?
yeah, I think that's one of the last handouts.
Shall I begin?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm Joan Ferguson.
Sure.
I'm a trustee of the Concord Land Conservation Trust, and with me tonight is Morris Tyler, the owner of the property at 216 Westford Road, and behind me as well as Lynn Huggins and Polly
Hi.
Reeve, also trustees of the Land Trust.
Great.
Thank you for considering our request. We're here tonight seeking your approval for a proposed amendment to a 2009 conservation restriction that the Land Trust holds on the property that Morris Tyler owns. So the process of amending a conservation restriction is similar to the process of approving a real conservation restriction. So we've drafted it, the Land Trust and Morris drafted the amendment. Then it was reviewed by the state, the Massachusetts Division of Conservation Services. So they reviewed it and revised it, and the document that was included in your package is the signature-ready document from them. Then the Natural Resources Commission issued a municipal certification showing their support for the amendment. And now we're before the Select Board asking for your approval and signing of it. And then it will go back to the state, the Secretary of Energy and Environmental Affairs, and the Secretary signs it. So that's the process. And a little background, in 2007, Vic and Mary Tyler gave us a conservation restriction, donated a conservation restriction on 12 acres, and that's the 2007 conservation restriction. And then in 2009, they restricted another 2.9 acres. So the property remains in private ownership. Morris owns it, subject to the restrictions. So it can't be developed. It has to remain in open space and agriculture. But the purpose of both restrictions was to preserve the land for agriculture. And the Tylers have been haying this field for 35 or 40 years now. To preserve the farmstead around the house, the 1716 house, that's the kind of yellow one with the barn on, you see on Westford Road. To preserve the scenic rural area and to preserve a wildlife link. So the first conservation restriction included a reserved right to maintain and plant trees, shrubs, and plants along the sides of the restriction in a 30-foot wide band. But in the 2009 restriction, due to, we think, just an oversight, this provision wasn't included. And if it had been, we certainly wouldn't have approved it, but it wasn't. And we thought there was a row of plants along the edge. There was a row of plants along the edge of the 2009 restriction. And in the baseline documentation report that was written in 2009, it says, almost the entire 2.9 acres is open hayfield with trees and or shrubs only along the eastern boundary. However, in 2023, Morris surveyed his property and found that he didn't own this line of trees and shrubs. And so he was left without a vegetative screen. Okay, so there's kind of a long story, but so this.
Sorry, he didn't own it.
Where the shrubs were,
We
right?
didn't own the trees that were there.
I thought they were on
But
his
the trees are
property.
still there.
There,
Subsequently, a number of them are no longer there.
yeah,
been
because they were
development on
on
that side.
the abutting property.
They're on the abutting property. Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
got it.
Yeah.
So this amendment does two things. It replaces the conservation restriction plan, the original one, with this more recent and accurate survey. And it adds a provision that allows an 18-foot wide planting area. And the plants would be predominantly deciduous and with a mix of species that's reflective of field edges in Concord. We hope that you'll approve this amendment. We believe that it helps preserve the scenic and rural quality of this property for the benefit of the public. So, if any questions?
So if I just want to recall, so the shrubbery that you're allowing for now is on the easterly side, but is there also a southern section,
Okay,
southerly?
so we would allow it on the eastern
Eastern
side
side.
and kind of the southeastern side.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
not along the frontage of Westford Road, which
Right.
is where the public view
Where you
is.
can view it, right? Okay.
And actually, yes, on the western
western
side,
side.
because Morris now owns the entire property, but
Yeah.
we can't predict the future of
Yeah.
what's going to happen with the house. And,
Right.
somebody who owns the field might want to screen, who knows?
Yep, yep.
So we want him to have that opportunity.
Yeah, no, it makes complete sense.
Yeah.
So your documentation was very thorough.
Thank you.
Everything's in order. It makes a lot of sense. Anybody at the board have additional questions, documentation, or questions for Polly? No?
None.
Cameron, any questions?
Very tight.
All right. Well, it looks great. Sorry it's taken you so long to get here, but I mean, it's good that you got it resurveyed and you know the actual land property now. So I think we need a motion to vote approval for the conservation restriction.
So I'm going to make a motion to approve the proposed amendment to a conservation restriction that's held by the Concord Land Conservation Trust on property located at 216 Westford Road as presented in the select board meeting packet.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Great, congratulations. Thank you.
Thank
And
Thanks
we
so
have
much.
documents that we know we need to sign as
Okay.
well, so, and
And
they have to be notarized, so
Yes.
a little more work for us to do.
Okay.
But we have them.
Yeah, good.
Great.
Okay, yes.
Thank you. Thank you for coming this evening.
Thanks
Appreciate
so
it.
much. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we are moving along. Our next agenda item is titled Communications, and Paul, I think this was your agenda, and we have a handout that you had included in the packet for that.
There is. It's in the pack.
Megan,
I
can you bring it
share?
up, or do you want to share?
I need to share.
I'm happy to do it if you want, but you can do it.
Different from the slides that are in the,
No,
I assume they're the
Packet?
same, yeah.
you can share.
Megan, share.
or is
Yeah,
it the same?
You can share.
Okay.
Tell you to switch.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. I didn't know if you had a separate presentation that you would.
No,
You
it's a-
never know.
Put it in
Yeah.
there. Good.
Great.
Thanks. So just refresh your memory why we're discussing this. In FY '26, we had a goal.
Yes.
And it was called Evaluate the Adequacy of Select Board Communications. And we never really discussed that. So it's a proposed goal, and we'll discuss that,
Great.
when we get to the goals. So I think we had a sense, or I had a sense, that there were opportunities for better communications with the public, because we are elected officials, and we have open meetings, and we have lots of issues that we discuss, and we have minutes, and we have recordings. But the question is that type of communication sufficient given the public interest in what we do? Overall, I think our communications, have been limited. I think the status of communications, I think, has largely been the town manager communications, which are excellent, I think, in the last year between Concord Currents and news and updates. I think what's going on in the town, what's, the projects, I think there's been excellent communications, but those haven't come from the select board. So today's discussion, and I don't think we need to come to a conclusion here, but I think I would like to sense whether there are unmet needs of residents for information on our priorities, or the topics we discussed, deliberations, what's important to us, what's coming up. I think we made some progress that Wendy has in her agendas, future agenda topic, but you still have to find those online. So question, what are our current communication modes, and are there easy opportunities for improvement? Next slide, please. So, so I did a very unscientific poll, and the poll, I asked people who are not usually at these meetings, but are very interested in the town, what their sense was. And, these are typical comments, that the information of what the select board does is available, but it's dispersed across agendas, meetings, meeting recordings, and web pages. And this person felt it's unrealistic to expect that most residents will regularly attend the meetings or review the minutes, and it's, just a lot of information. So, could we distill that down into easier communications? Somebody said, I believe Concord would benefit from more proactive communication, more centralized access to information, early engagements with residents on issues potentially of broad public interest. Certainly things like MCI has broad public interest, but there's a lot that the select board does that is rather opaque to, I think, a lot of the community. Residents often learn about issues late in the process, can cause frustration. Residents could or should be better informed of upcoming agenda topics and what were the results of the select board discussions. On the other hand, next slide, were people who pay a lot of attention. And this person, I think the select board does a great job of communicating and engaging with the public. There are many ways of citizens to receive information. And this is true, but if you're a citizen, you have to either be at these meetings or you have to read the minutes, read the recordings, speak to individuals, etc. But I think there are some who are very attentive that feel our communications are quite adequate. So I think it's kind of bimodal. So the question is, we want to appeal to a larger group of citizens in terms of making our deliberations, our topics more transparent and open. Next slide. So these are the current communication modes as I interpret it. And so this online information, we have select board goals. We'll discuss those tonight. We have agendas, we have meeting minutes, we have recordings. Their attendance at public meetings, not only these meetings, but committee meetings, their town hearings, town meeting. So there's lots of ways that people can find out what we're doing, but it's not easy. The Concord Bridge occasionally has a newsworthy topics. I had a conversation about a year ago with the editor and kind of raised the question: can you do more coverage of not these meetings per se, but what's coming up? What are the important things that the select board is going to be deliberating on? And so the final slide here was just the next slide, with just some possible suggestions. Can we or should we improve proactive communications outside of the website on issues like upcoming agendas, key topics, the results of deliberations and votes, why we voted on certain things, perhaps? Could we use the Concord Bridge? The idea of, what's come to my mind, is select board office hours. So what would that mean? That would mean that, and I've checked with town council, one or two of us could meet monthly, set up a meeting where we could just have conversations with.
I literally had a meeting with constituents, and they said, the town doesn't provide you with an office? And I said, no.
Well, I don't think
as we sat in a coffee shop.
Yeah. So, I mean, formal office hours, whatever that would mean, and I use that term loosely, just ways to engage with one or two of us on a rotating basis to have conversations. And then there are potentially other ideas. So the question I just want to throw that around is, are there needs for more and better communications with the public? Would we in the public benefit from those? And so with that, I'll kind of just leave that open for kicking it around.
I guess if I want to start off here, I would say that the desire of the public is something that looks more like a push communication, something that goes to them rather than they have to come find it. So news and notices is a great thing, but it's not a select board communication, it's the town.
Right.
And the question is, to me, the question becomes like, to what degree are we distinct and what is our news different? How is it different from the town's news? But something like news and notices where you subscribe, it shows up in your email box, you go through it and see what it is. Feels like something that, if we want to have one that's distinct to the select board, I think that would be a good thing.
And the town of Wellesley has actually a select board newsletter.
They do.
And specifically, there's some effort to put that together.
Yep.
So that, that's.
And the question you get into is like public meeting rules and how are you collaborating and to what degree is something that one person maybe crafts becomes the select board thing because we have to all agree on it. Maybe would we have somebody have a rotating, I'll do the news later this month, and then you bring it back to the board and we all say, yeah, that's good, check the box, and now it can go out. I don't know how it would work.
It could be news from the chair. I mean,
or, more work for the chair.
No, thanks.
Even if you don't write it. Even if you don't write it.
No. I'd be interested in learning a little bit more about how Wellesley does it. What I was thinking was, are there best practices? Are there towns out there where citizens are like, yeah, they do a really good job? Yeah. I'm open to just about anything. The other thing I fear is pushing more information out. People get so much information already, and I hear both sides. I hear there's a lot of information out there, but we don't know how to get to it. And others are just, don't send me any more information because I know how to get it. But I don't know. There's no perfect solution, I don't think.
I can't count how many times I've heard the phrase, how come we didn't know about that?
Right,
And,
yes.
Right.
and of course, the information is there somewhere.
Right.
But it's just not pushed out easily.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, is there a sense that,
Well, Cameron, what do you think?
No, I
Anything
mean,
to share?
look, thank you for pulling this together. I don't think we do a terrible job. I think we do pretty decent, but there's certainly other things that we could do. You know, the rotating office hours thing, kind of, I like that idea.
I kind of like it too, just to
the
see what people.
personal interaction, right? I mean, because again, like you can pump out another newsletter, who knows what people read, right? And I think we have some of that. We've done some other communications there. So, you know, the rotating like office hour thing, I kind of like. I wonder on like something like the chair's breakfast as an example.
Mm-hmm.
I just know it's sometimes hard. There's certain people who go, I can never go to that because I'm at work.
Yeah.
If there's an opportunity
It's
to
recorded.
maybe, well, no, to rotate the time of when it happens. So like, oh, hey, sometimes we have that at, you know, it's not a chair's breakfast, it's the chair's, I don't know,
Yeah.
just to give a different group of people opportunity to show up and hear what's going on. So it's just avenues, to me, it's those avenues where there's some sort of more discussion.
yeah.
As opposed to necessarily having more, you know, just sort of written reports that go
No, I
out.
have a sense that more meetings isn't the solution, because it's just other meetings that people can't or won't or attend. I think that the outreach through office hours is some
Yeah.
pushing stuff out, and
Yeah.
I mean, we think we do a good job because we talk to each other, and we talk at these meetings.
Only in this
but-
meeting. But only in this meeting, just so you know.
Only in this meeting, unless it's just
Yeah, but,
one-on-one.
you know, Cameron, you said something too, it's like a kind of meeting where you can share, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we're always giving information out or it's taking it in, but just talking is, you know, and that's what the coffees would allow, is just to converse on a topic.
Yeah, and we have to feel our way through that. You know, we wouldn't want those to become,
No, and only two of us could go, and we can't speak on behalf of the select board. But, I
Right.
mean, it's worth
Exactly.
having a forum, and maybe the residents will let us know what we need to do more around communication.
so you think
You've
we
got
should-
ideas.
so
Good
the
try it.
Select board office hour is something that we ought to flesh out, and maybe the next meeting or two.
I like it.
Come
Yeah.
back with.
I think we should give it a try.
Will
And I
there be
think-
office hours, will we hold those office hours in this room?
I don't know, why don't we think about it, 'cause someone could come back with a
Oh, yeah.
proposal.
Yeah.
How's that?
Would you like me to
Yeah.
come back with?
Sure, I'd love you.
Because that to me seems to be
Yeah.
the easiest one to do. I'll
Yeah.
get you a
Yeah,
copy
I
of
think so.
the Wellesley letter, and that's more complicated because somebody has to write it. And,
Yeah.
you know, I don't want to tread on the town manager's communications, which are really good. I don't want to
Right.
compete with
Yeah.
that. It has to- If we do
Yeah.
something written,
Yeah.
it has to be different. And so.
Right.
Yeah, I also, on this vein though, I do want to bring up sort of communication, I'll call it communication to the media. I think
Okay,
that
yeah.
often is communication to the Concord Bridge.
Right.
Yeah,
But there could be other places. But I think we might want to think about how we do that. Because there's been, I think, at least a couple, maybe one or two instances where we end up all separately giving feedback, which technically, once you sort of roll it up, could be sort of like, oh, so collectively, although unintended, we're sort of not deliberate, but stating a position on something that we haven't actually discussed and debated in this public
so
forum.
that just happened on the Route 2 Rotary, right?
So,
Where we
right.
were both
So,
all of
again,
us were
but
individually
and I think,
asked,
I don't
right?
know if it's
Yeah.
happened in the tax
Yeah, yeah.
thing, but I'm wondering if we should say, look, go through the chair. Like, I don't know, I'm thinking out loud, but it's also, I get a little
Mm-hmm.
concerned if we end up, even if it's inadvertent.
I did, when we got that outreach
Yeah.
from the bridge about the Rotary, I leaned right in and answered the questions.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I did give it a second thought, like, I'm just speaking for myself. I had,
Right,
I
right,
had to write
no.
that
Yes.
somewhere
Yeah.
in that thing. I'm
Yeah.
speaking for myself here. But I did answer the questions.
Yeah.
Well, and there are many instances at these meetings where one of us stands up there, and I'm speaking for myself,
Yeah.
not
Yep.
for the select board, and, it could be an opinion that we don't all agree on, but I think personal, there's no harm in giving personal opinions out,
No.
as long as we don't represent the larger group.
Right.
Right.
That's my personal opinion.
Right. Well, there's part of it is the public does want to know what we want, what our opinions are on certain things.
They
So I
do.
think it's
And
important that we
The thing I think that
respond.
the public would prefer is that we not shield ourselves from answering questions, that we just
Yeah.
respond naturally and honestly and earnestly. I'm not going to point fingers, but I think that there's been some pushback about using a PR consultant to answer questions. And I don't
Yeah.
think that we should be doing that. Not,
Right,
you know.
yeah.
No. I guess, and maybe it's an unfounded concern. I guess my concern is only if, like, hey, here's a subject, we haven't talked about it as a group.
Right.
Yeah.
And yes, everybody can, hey, I'm answering on my own behalf, but then it's sort of collectively is sort of like we've already had the, oh, okay, so this is how, collectively, this is how the group already feels before we've had the discussion. I just don't know how that gets construed, right? That's
Well,
all.
and maybe we just need to acknowledge it when we do get together and have a discussion, which is, because I think it's hard to hold back.
Well, even if we were talking about having office hours,
Yeah,
a constituent sits down with you, you're sitting there and waiting for anybody to stop by, and you engage in a conversation about a topic of interest. They know they're talking to you as a select board member, you represent them, you're a person for them on the board. They may be providing advocacy for whatever their position is.
Yeah.
They may be just wanting to know, what do you think, Dean? How you think you're going to respond to this when it comes to your attention on the board? But I think that they have every right to, have a conversation with you. And-
Absolutely.
And,
Yeah.
and,
And it's a bit,
Absolutely.
it's been an experiment.
yeah,
yeah,
I think we should start and see how it
Yeah.
goes and
Yeah.
kind of
Okay.
regroup.
all right,
yeah.
Sounds
Could
good.
we take public comment on this, if there's any changes
Sure.
you have?
And you know what, I have to
Ooh,
admit, I
public
haven't been good about taking comments on tonight's agenda, so I apologize
No, 'cause
to everybody
we
who
were talking
did.
about commenting to the public.
Right.
Maybe
No,
there's
it's a
not-
good point.
if there's
Thank
no
you.
if there's no
Thank you
public
for the
interest,
reminder.
that'll tell me something.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment on our public comments? No? If there is someone in remote who wants to make a comment, please raise your hand. Okay. Well, thank you for that reminder. All right, well, we'll be talking about this again under goals.
Yep.
So that's a good segue. All right, we are running a little behind. So we have two more agenda items. We have our goals discussion, which is in an Excel spreadsheet. And Megan, if you could bring it up, it'd be great. I just want to acknowledge Mary is not with us tonight, so that's unfortunate. But I think tonight what we'll probably do is just let's go through goal by goal and just share each of our perspectives on, do we think this goal is written makes sense? Should we modify it? Should it be consolidated with another one? Just anything, right? And what I'll try to do is take notes on these, and I'll refine this document if people are comfortable with that. Of course, I have to find my own copy of this, so, all right. Okay, and I also realized that when I first put this structure together, I didn't really give an example, so people filled it out a little differently, but I think that's fine. We'll make it out. We'll go through that. Okay. All right. All right, so the first one pertains to MCI.
Before you get
Yep.
the first Uber category is strategic planning, is that what the?
Yeah, so we had agreed, I think, we first talked about this in March, that we would try to categorize our goals into 4 different categories. So we identified strategic planning, financial management, effective and transparent government, and resilience and sustainability. And the descriptions of those items are actually on another tab in the spreadsheet, but that's something that we agreed to earlier. And then in our earlier meeting, we sort of just identified topical areas for our goals, and I think that's what most people started with. So, for example, we had MCI master plan, and we had wastewater treatment plant and municipal facilities planning, just as an example. And then we each sort of filled in. Remember, we each were assigned a goal to sort of fill out sort of a description of it, and what the metrics are, because remember, we're trying to be smart, right? So specific, measurable, smart, structured kind of goals. And then we asked to put a timeline together. I'll note that this, so just going across, we have the goal, the metric, the target timeframe. We sort of set these all up as 2027, but we should recognize that some of these could go into 28, because I think some of these might actually. And then what we've done sort of new this year is add in who are the committees that are linked to this particular goal, department dependencies, and the author here was just the individual who crafted this particular start of the goal. So, all right, so MCI master plan. I think this one, it's fairly descriptive. It's basically in aggregate to complete the master plan for MCI. It doesn't go so far as our last goal did, which says to complete the RFP by DCAM, because that's not really our role to do, but it is to complete the master plan and take the zoning to town meeting. So I identified sort of those 4 metrics. So we're going to complete the site layout and the financial estimate, which will be part of specifically for Public Works, because that's a key element of the master plan. Because we need to know the cost and sizing for our own capital planning. We'll complete the master plan feasibility analysis, complete the master plan proposal itself, both of those items by the end of this year, so by end of December. Now that assumes our master plan, because our master plan contract is supposed to end at the end of this year, although we might extend their support into 27. And then finally, the goal is to develop the zoning. And what I didn't say here was get it accepted at town meeting, but obviously we're going to have the zoning proposal. And what I'm listing here is the regulatory plan will go to town meeting for Q4.
So backing up from that,
Yep.
the zoning has to be kicked off pretty soon, I would assume, at planning commission. So otherwise,
It is, no, and it's, but, so the consultant is going to help draft that zoning
Right.
in beginning September, well,
September.
probably
I assume
following the
by the time they
illustrative
get to
plan.
the September 9th meeting, they'll be already starting to engage with
Well,
the
it's going
planning
to
board.
probably be around that time and then going thereafter. I think October was the key timeframe to really get that zoning.
It's going to be a lot of work for the planning board.
We are, well,
The simple wording of the box on the left is
Yeah.
complete the master plan zoning. I mean,
yeah, I mean, it's the master plan. Yeah. Now, the master plan right now, we do have some reference to Junction Village here, because we as a town should support for Junction Village getting easements for water, sewer, that kind of thing. So that's, it's in the descriptive, but it's not a metric per se. But that's,
I'm wondering if there's one other item here, it's between 3 and 4, and this is a communication plan. I think, as you think about all the pieces that, I mean, it's not just the zoning plan, there's a lot of things that go into a lot of public concerns, and so.
the public outreach.
Public
around.
outreach, yeah. I think we have to specifically plan the public outreach and who does that. To cover, a lot of things we're talking about. It's not just the zoning, it's traffic, and it's other things that the public might be concerned about.
Yeah, I was going to
Okay.
ask where, like, the traffic stuff we talked about at the beginning of the meeting.
I mean, some of the traffic analysis,
Well,
that's
there's
part of the
transportation
master
stuff later
plan.
on.
Yeah, well, that's so separate, but, okay, but I hear what you're saying. So
Yeah,
there should
yeah.
be a component here for
Yeah.
public outreach, and I think that's going to be, we'll need a little follow-up with, at least on that.
All this done by Q2?
To me,
Yeah, so just so you know, the contract for the master plan ends December 2026.
No.
This is a very aggressive timeline. That's what these deliverables
But
are.
the zoning?
The zoning is part of the
zoning
deliverable.
article has to
That
be-
is, but the zoning
It has to be
article will be
hardwired so
crafted.
you can get it in the warrant. You have to
Right.
know it.
Yeah, I know, we have to know it by December.
Yeah.
We're going to be drafting it for the warrant.
Yeah.
I think this is our only goal.
Right. Okay, well,
This is-
we have a lot of goals here.
Yeah.
So let's try to stick to what we need to change and improve on these. So the wastewater treatment capacity one, Paul, you had
Yeah, I
drafted
thought
this
these are the
one.
components. There's, negotiation with DECAMA as far as the transfer. I think we have to put that in the capital plan, whatever the cost of that's going to be. I think beyond that, it's not just the wastewater treatment plan. We've talked about a larger strategy for the town, which includes sand beds, et cetera, and there's capital budgeting for that. I'm not sure that all has to happen in FY '27, but certainly
Yeah.
the first two have to. I think an
I
overall
think- yeah.
wastewater strategy, which
I
is.
don't know when the money's, when you say include in FY '28 capital budget, I don't,
So,
If you want to just tie that wastewater plant over to the rest of our sewer system, that's going to require
so
something.
I do
Yeah.
think that, in terms of, I think we have to, or I think we've already started this, but develop the sequence of capital improvements and permitting approvals that we're going to need to optimize the townwide wastewater treatment. That's sort of what I see this needs to be. I don't know if we're going to have done the transfer this year or not. I think we're going to be well on our way. I don't know if we're going to have any kind of approval at town meeting for the transfer of the wastewater treatment plant. I think we
Yes.
will, right? So I don't, should we be listing that as part of this goal? I would assume that we'd need approval for that, but maybe you're embedding that in
yeah,
number one.
So I guess to me, I was thinking, Wendy, what you were, to try to, if we said by the end of the year, we've successfully negotiated the transfer and we've got it approved at town meeting, isn't that,
Well, I think but I think Paul was
Like-
getting to a larger master plan for wastewater treatment in its entirety for the town. That's what I was starting
Well,
to
that's
read
Q-
into.
That's Q3.
Right, but
That's later on. That doesn't have to run up
Yeah,
to town meeting. That's a little bit.
No, but I'm just saying your goal, larger goal of wastewater treatment plan is
Yeah,
to
it's not
define
just-
what that series of investments is going to be, and it's a multi-year strategy, right? So
Exactly.
maybe it should start with at least, let's define and document that strategy, and then there's some piece of the first step.
You can reword that, but that's in essence what we need to do. We
Right.
need to think beyond that wastewater treatment plan, which has its
Right.
own timeline.
Right.
and
But
sort of
I
logic.
do think that if we do not have some placeholder on the FY on that 28 warrant,
Yep.
another whole year will go by before we
Yep,
can
fair.
actually do anything regarding this plant.
Okay, so that's got to be
So
done.
we have to come up with some
Right.
kind of placeholder number for the warrant so that we get a bond
oh,
authorization.
Yeah, yeah.
no, that
Yeah.
I'm with.
So that item number 2 that Paul's got there, I think is a.
Yeah.
I guess to me, that what you just said totally resonates with me. I don't know how much or when we're going to start spending the money.
Right.
So that's why when I see including FY '28 capital, but that sounds much more narrow. Dean, what you said
Yep.
makes sense. What is the overall thing going to look like?
What's it going to look like?
Yeah, absolutely.
But if we have nothing on the warrant, another whole
gotta-
year goes
No,
by before we can.
want
Yeah,
to
you wanna
get
move
it,
it, yeah.
we want to
Yeah.
get the transfer approved, which
Right.
includes a plan for what it's
Right.
going to entail.
That's number
So-
2.
So I read that as the 10-year capital plan,
Yeah.
beginning in fiscal '28.
That's kind of
Yeah.
what,
That's-
yeah,
Right, and.
Yeah.
That's
and
fine too, yes.
Yeah,
right.
That's, to
specific
put
piece.
this in the next
What's
capital
the 28
plan.
component of the 10-year plan for this wastewater treatment plant?
Yeah,
Is
but
there
I-
a 10,
I
is there a
mean,
20?
Well, I think we
28?
need the larger plan, and
Yeah.
to, Carrie, I think it is, it's your 10-year
Based on the
plan.
conversations that we've had with our
Right.
wastewater consultant, I think we
Can do that,
understand
right.
the order of magnitude of the improvements and enough detail to start plugging them into the 10-year plan.
Okay.
I have more concern about number 3, the master plan. The waste, we do need to do an update to the comprehensive wastewater management plan, which I think is a 2014 document. It's not necessarily programmed for fiscal '27. I do think we have enough data from our wastewater consultant to document a
Yep.
strategy.
That's what I was,
And then I
We
think
do.
we would
Yep.
fund a full CWMP
Yeah.
project in maybe the next
29.
year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
okay.
think number 3, we have a pretty good clear line of sight on number 3 right now.
But it's, to
With
your
the
point,
consultants' work.
it's what the consultants are starting to outline, or already
So I would
have.
just maybe call it something other than the master plan, because
Yeah,
it's
that's
not.
right.
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Let me work on that. Okay, 2 down. All right, let's keep going. Moving on to the municipal facility planning categories. So we have public safety here to create, following from the land use working group, create a committee to proceed with a new public safety building. I sort of wonder if we should step back, and I think Carrie's mentioned this, and I think further in the goals, someone else mentioned that maybe we should just be thinking of creating a building committee. And the first action there is to focus on public facilities, because we're gonna have lots of different committees if we do it site-specific. So maybe that should be the focus here. It's developing a capital planning committee, and the first action is on public safety recommendations.
Yeah, I've had the same conversation. I think that's right.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to dilute the need to kind of move forward on public safety by throwing
No.
every long-term building thing. But we
No.
also have public works building, right? If we're going to build
Oh, yeah,
something
public works,
at
yeah.
MCI. for
At
them.
MCI, yeah,
So,
right, true. This was very much geared toward the land
yeah,
use
so
working
I don't know
group.
what the first priority is, but it probably is
Okay,
public works building, and then closely on the heels is public
Yeah,
safety.
so my line, establish a revised capital improvement planning process / committee, would probably end up being this building committee. That
Yeah.
not just for the single purpose of generating a public safety building, but a
Right.
standing building committee.
That's,
Long-held dream of mine ever since I was on the finance
Okay.
committee, pushed
Yeah.
hard for it.
well, and
Happy
the
to have it come back.
capital
That's a
plan
real need for
that,
doing
yeah,
it.
and the capital plan that goes with it, that's the strategy.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
All right.
All right, so that's what we want to do with this one. Municipal consolidation, this says surplus and sell, PBD, but it's all part of the capital plan committee, if that is the next step that we're taking. I know the land use, did the report come out last week, the land use working group?
We
report?
voted on it, yeah.
Okay, I
it's
didn't, I
supposed to
thought it was
final.
coming, it was final, okay.
I don't know if it is.
There was some wordsmithing or something
Okay,
that was,
yeah.
that
It
was
just
going to
occurred to me, I
happen
wasn't
that was
sure.
modest before
Okay.
it was finalized, but, yeah. Committee voted it out, as they said.
Right, so the decision to surplus and sell PBD is still their active recommendation?
It is, the whole
assuming-
municipal consolidation is, I forget, is a lower priority. I mean,
Right.
it's on there, but it's, I mean, as far as other
Yeah, I mean,
movement of, well, PBD is number 1.
yeah. I'm still sort of, what I haven't come to grips with is, what is going to happen with Ripley? Do we ever need Peabody as sort of a swing space for anything? But we don't have that longer plan, I don't think, on Ripley. Are we agreeing that that's absolutely the thing we should do right now with Peabody? And I haven't been in these discussions, and maybe this is not the time to have this conversation. Carrie, were you
Well,
going
I
to say
mean,
something?
I don't want to speak on behalf of the school committee or
Right.
superintendent. I can tell you I've had conversations with the superintendent, and the school has no interest in Peabody, and,
Right.
and the school committee voted to
Right.
transfer care and custody
town.
to the
Right,
town
right.
for, for the purpose
Yep.
of disposition. There is an additional action needed by town meeting in order to give the select board the authority to sell
Right.
the property, and I thought we were gearing up for the 2027.
Yeah, so
town
again,
meeting
I mean,
for
I
that.
agree with that. I don't know that as written, we would actually, hey, by the end of the year, we've sold it. I mean, I think it's,
So is the action
We
town
would
meeting
be-
related?
We would be
We need to bring
seeking
something to
town
town
meeting
Town meeting,
action.
right, okay,
approval to allow us.
Yep.
to
Okay.
sell it,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
okay.
And then we would have to spend some time thinking about, do we need to do an RFP ahead of time? Is town meeting going to want to see what it is?
Do we
Right.
Or are they gonna-
Do we want to do any zoning work around
Right, to
that
optimize
space?
the
Yeah.
potential value, yeah.
So,
Okay, so it's really about seeking town meeting approval, then, it sounds like.
Well, it might be seeking town meeting approval to just give us,
The authority to
authority
sell,
to
yeah,
take
that's what I
action in
meant,
the
that's what I
future.
meant, yeah,
Yes,
that's what I meant.
I agree.
Okay. Okay, 2229 Main Street.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, we just
Yeah.
got to keep moving ahead. You know, I would say finalize the wording of an agreement, but a settlement agreement. And I think we can do that, but we're not going
Yeah.
to pull the trigger on that. But I
Yeah.
think we can finalize the wording and then probably update the public on
Yeah.
what we're doing with that after we kind of finalize the wording. But we're not
I
going
think we
to
have a
require.
public meeting on it. Is there going to be,
What's
you'd want to have a public meeting on just
I think we
changing
need to
the
keep the
wording?
public, you know,
Apprised
if we
as
actually
times.
come to an agreement on the wording. I mean, it's going to be up town manager, town council. But, we had Article 15, which is a little bit stale, which authorizes us to acquire the site. We probably.
Right, that was a long time ago,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was a long time ago.
Right, it
So
was
that
over
would
10
be a
years.
rationale for coming back to the public and seeking reauthorization.
Well, if we need to seek reauthorization,
We better have a
I think that would
plan.
have to be,
More of
again, at town meeting, wouldn't it?
Yes.
It would, but do we have to do it this year?
No.
We don't have to
No.
do it this
No,
year, but I think, but I
site's
guess
not
your
gonna
point
be-
is, let's keep the public informed of
Yeah.
what's happening at
That's
2229.
what I
And let's
meant
give them
there.
an update,
Keep
right?
it.
My only comment is, can we just give ourselves to Q4?
Oh,
Only because it's, I don't think there's an
Yeah, it's
urgency.
fine.
okay, Q4. All right, dispatch service. So, I think before, I wrote this goal, this was when we originally were talking about hosting the dispatch service, and then we were hopeful for a grant, and then I think, Carrie, we did not get the grant, so that's unfortunate.
That is correct. Yeah, One piece of feedback from staff, if we could retitle that emergency communications versus dispatch, it's a particular sensitivity just to what the work is. We did not receive the grant. We do expect to move forward. We're trying to figure out where the funding will come from, continuing to work with our partners Carlisle and Lincoln. And in conversation with both of the chiefs earlier today, they thought that this feasibility analysis could be done by Q4, even though we're not going to be starting as soon as we thought, because we have to figure out our grant funding. But we have a meeting with the two communities. It's either this week or next week.
So I just want to be open and honest. So this said Q4, but maybe it shouldn't be Q4. So, I mean, we have to get the funding first, right, before we do the analysis? Should we make this, is it a 28?
No, I think
You think we can actually-
we expect to be able to figure out the funding.
Okay,
We also have the opportunity to work with the UMass Boston Collins Center. If we work with that team, there's no cost.
okay.
So I think it's
to
just
the
funding, not
community.
necessarily grant funding, right?
Yeah.
But secure funding.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
and
And
I,
then
Secure
complete the
funding, yeah.
and I
I
think
see.
that's even a Q1, and we believe we can do the feasibility study by the end of Q4.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I think there's, I think we missed having public safety dispatch on this list of departments impacted, so there might have been a typo there. All right, and then housing strategy, God bless you. These were ones that Mary had put together.
Haven't we done the first one?
The first one's, we're already over 10%.
Yes, we are, well, yes,
Well,
we are.
with
No,
no,
we are
No,
over
we are.
10%.
Oh, we
We're
are,
just a
even without.
smidge over,
No.
right, but we'll be up to 16% with the 240Bs that are going in. So so maybe that doesn't have to be a goal, per se. So the next one is integrate Junction Village with MCI master plan. And I think that's part of MCI master plan. So I don't think that should be part of this goal, but then it goes on to ensure X% of attainable AMI.
I don't know the number. I think the sentiment of integrating Junction Village into the plan and
Okay.
ensuring that includes attainable.
For
I just
Junction
don't- I don't know
Village.
the number, so I mean,
Yeah.
ensuring that it includes attainable housing.
Okay.
I think I recall Matt Johnson was like at 1120 units of these.
Well, are we talking about the housing production, the housing
Yeah, but that's
strategy,
different
or
from-
Junction
Yeah.
Village
'Cause
specifically?
Junction
Well,
Village had a
They're
very.
different. They were,
Yeah, I know.
they're
I think
deeded
that his
150.
number was sprinkle 120
Right.
through the whole property with the two lots combined. But I might be even misquoting that number. but I
So
thought it was
I'm going to just take a little comment. I have been in conversation with Julie McClure from the Concord Housing Development Corp., and I'm actually proposing that we have a joint meeting with that board to talk about Junction Village and the master plan, so that may be in mid-August, just
Do they have
hold
to do
that
something
thought.
formal with their deed in order to get
They
it?
will have to do something separately.
Yeah.
I just want the
We need their
housing,
input,
we need
yeah.
the CHDC to be on board with us, and we just need to share some information with them and our strategy. So it just gets into this housing.
Yeah. No, just, I'm just saying I don't know the number. But the sentiment of integrating
Right.
Junction Village in,
Yep.
which includes attainable units, because
Right.
that was part of that mission.
Right,
And we said, we want to make sure that stays as part of that
Yep.
mission. Whether it all gets developed on that site or somehow
Right.
gets kind of spread more broadly
so do you
into
think
the
this
MCI.
should be part of the master plan, or you want to keep this as separate?
I'd be okay keeping it as part of housing strategy,
Okay.
because I
Yeah.
think Mary
It's
would,
fine. That's
I
where
don't
she
want to
wanted
speak
it.
for
Yep.
her, I would assume
Right.
she would want to have something that specifically calls that out, but.
Yep, okay, so we'll keep it here as it is, and we'll clarify that goal. And then we've got the 91B workhouse, that purchased this, the 91B lot. I last thought there were some issues, and I'm not up to speed on what's happening with this lot. So I know there was some potential environmental concerns here.
They
that
were
were
doing another
cons-
So
sort of
we,
study of it, right?
we requested permission from MassDOT to do a Phase 2 environmental. They
Okay.
did agree, they asked for a scope of work. We sent
Yep.
the scope of work, and they are reviewing the scope of work.
Okay.
So I mean, we have to recognize that right now we have a vote from the
We were-
Affordable Housing Trust not to move forward.
Right.
Yeah.
And this board hasn't voted. The Affordable Housing Trust, I would assume, with the ability to do the Phase 2, will reverse its
Yeah.
vote, but until, we just have to acknowledge that we don't have
I mean, I
votes
don't
yet
know
to
that,
move
I
forward.
mean, I'm not ready to say purchase it, because we don't even know, this is,
Yeah,
Right.
I'm happy to say evaluate it.
Yeah.
No problem, like, and, or pursue or something, but we don't know what the
Right.
studies are gonna say and what the,
this also says Q1. I'm like, that can't happen. No, I don't think at this
Yeah,
point,
I-
but.
so-
I think, I don't, I mean, Paul and I have talked about this. I think we don't expect anything. Well, I don't want to speak for you. You're the scientist. You can talk about the.
When I saw the recommendation, and I looked at the physics, I said, the
Yeah.
chances of there being contaminated is like swimming upstream.
Oh, okay.
And so the way the groundwater would move, so there's a high probability you won't find anything from that gas station. That doesn't mean somebody didn't dump something there independent of that. So I think it's very worthwhile. If that purchase is important to the housing strategy, then I think
is.
the investment in doing Phase 2
Yeah,
is,
Right.
is worthwhile.
we should pursue it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe the items are complete the Phase 2 environmental analysis and make a determination on purchase.
Yeah, and that's
And
not
I think-
Q1.
I think by
Yeah.
Q2, we'd like to do it by Q2.
Would the analysis be done by Q1, or is that Q2?
When does Q2 end?
Q2 would be December.
Oh,
The
yeah.
end of September is the end
Yeah,
of
it's
Q1.
not
Yeah.
a big study.
Yeah.
once you get
Okay.
going. Well, procure it, RFP, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, what do we think the timing would be in the event that we found there were no issues with the site? We get the right to do the Phase 2 study.
Yeah.
Right.
Comes back, looks clean.
They
Can't we move
proceed.
quickly on this? I mean, can't the Housing Trust move quickly?
Yeah, I think
Where's the
yes.
constraint?
I think it's, this can be done by the end of the calendar year.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Q2?
Yeah.
All right, Q2. Moving on. All right, moving on to, now we have a series of cell service improvements here. The first one, Cameron, these are yours, if you want to.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, Megan, please weigh in here, or others, but, so the topics that I looked at were, completing the cell phone work at the Concord landfill, the small cell projects in the Concord Center locations, awarding and beginning construction around the Emerson umbrella, completing some evaluation of West Concord locations and coverage. So again, that's one's a little bit further behind. And then, for discussion is whether there's a reintroduction of zoning amendment at the town meeting.
So the planning board has voted not to do that this year. They have produced their goals. I think there was quite a good effort made in the last year to put that cell service through. And if I think about what else we're going to be doing at town meeting this year, I don't know if this is the year to bring that cell zoning article back again.
I was actually
Unless-
wondering if you were asking just to try again on the same.
Yeah, I
Because
don't know. I'm
I think we could
putting it
do
out for
that,
discussion. I'm not,
yeah.
it's not a hill I'm trying to die on, but just
Yeah.
like, it was one vote
It was
away.
one vote.
Do we bring it
Yeah.
back, right? I guess that's sort of, I guess would be the discussion.
I would assume.
And if we're not sure, then I would say
Yeah.
take it out of our town, take it out of our goals. It doesn't, but if people say, yeah, you know what, actually, that feels like a healthy thing to do.
So that would end up being a Q2 item because we'd need to get it onto the warrant by the
True,
end
But,
of
true,
December.
fair.
If we're doing
Yep.
that.
Maybe we should have a little more conversation with the planning department. Like, are we clear that it would be just reintroducing what we already proposed? I think it is. I don't think it needs to be
No,
changed
I don't think it needs to be
necessarily,
changed. I think
right?
people might want another bite at the apple, though.
Can you reintroduce a failed
Yes.
article?
We did it
the
this
following
year.
year?
You
We did,
can, you
yeah.
can because it went through the planning board.
Yeah.
If it was a citizen petition, you couldn't reintroduce it, or if for some
Okay.
reason
Yeah.
it
I'm
bypassed. the
fine,
planning
and
board.
it's probably appropriate if we want to talk to the planning board first, before we just say, hey, I know you said you weren't going to, but we're gonna,
Well,
You know.
we would need them to really support this. So
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
we need to have that conversation. So I can ask Rob
I'm the
offline.
liaison there.
Oh,
I
you're
can-
liaison,
I'm the
that's
liaison.
right.
I can take,
I'm not
I can take it
anymore.
up with them.
great.
So I have a question on some of these, because I just
Yeah.
want to be really clear. So
Yep.
activating the cell phone coverage at the landfill, I know we're doing the zoning work, Megan, but would the coverage actually get activated this year? Because there are 4 different contracts they're trying to get on that tower.
I don't think so. I don't have the
I don't-
schedule in front of me. But, the landfill is moving towards the local permitting
Right.
phase. And so they're gonna be going to the planning board and the zoning board for all of those local approvals.
So,
And I think there is a role for the select board to stay engaged and,
Yep.
So is it complete permitting and begin construction?
it's the contract and the permitting, right? I mean,
Yeah, I think some of the cell goals, it's like we take it to a certain point, right? And then
Right.
we've signed a lease with them and
Right.
they're driving it now.
right.
So their timeline, we have less control over.
Yeah, so I don't think you could say activate.
Yeah, that's where I was going. So I think we should complete the permitting,
Complete required.
required permitting for the tower. Okay.
And contracting? Is there-
Well, we have
is
a
there
lease, right? Megan, is it done?
We signed
We
a
have
lease with them
it's
last
done.
year, yep.
Right, so that's
And
done.
they're ready to submit their application.
Yeah, I
right?
Yeah,
believe
they're
they've
in.
submitted their application.
They're doing the
They're gonna
balloon
do their
study.
balloon test coming
Okay.
up.
Yeah, I
so
know.
They're chipping away.
All right, and then the cell projects in Concord Center, the small cell, aren't they supposed to be done? One I thought was done.
Yep,
Is the
one of
other
them
one-
is done. I don't know if they've started to activate. They are looking for more opportunities in the
Okay.
center.
Oh, okay.
But they're working with CMLP to identify the poles that would work, and then they come to the select board with their application for you all to review.
So maybe it's evaluate additional,
And that's just AT&T?
That's right.
yeah.
Such a hodgepodge.
Verizon,
the reason-
Verizon gets the tower.
Here, T-Mobile's
Yeah,
on
okay.
the Catholic Church, you know? Just such a hodgepodge.
And then, so I guess the other question, just for Q4, so at the Emerson umbrella, with construction, it won't start till Q4, it won't start till next summer, right? Don't we have to get through federal permitting?
They're hoping to begin construction next summer. That's right.
Okay, so that's really 28, so FY.
So we will sign the lease in Q1.
Yep.
Right.
So, okay, so we're going to we're awarding the contract in Q1, but this was getting into construction. I'm
It's
just trying to be,
It's been awarded.
Execute the lease.
Yeah.
okay. But do we want this goal to go into construction and make it to go into 28? I'm just asking.
We could.
Okay, so we'll
Or,
execute,
yeah.
because the goal here is just to execute the execute the lease. Because we're not in control of the construction, but it's the permitting.
Permitting.
And that's federal permitting, yeah, execute the lease and support permitting. Okay,
Do they have site plan review with the planning board?
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah, ZBA, yeah.
Or do they have to go to ZBA?
Yeah, because it'll be a,
Oh, they're-
we
because
didn't
of
have
the-
that zoning rule.
Yeah, exactly,
I remember.
exactly.
Okay.
But it's very helpful to have them all called out here as,
Yeah.
you know, this is a
Separate.
Well, you know me, I'm
significant town
provocative.
priority.
I'm trying to push,
No,
like,
and I-
okay,
and I
can we get it done? Can we get it built? You know?
I appreciate it
just
because
let it-
it's helpful
I know.
to remind
It's
and
part of the
say,
discussion. Yeah.
Yeah.
that's what we're doing here.
All right.
Yeah.
And do we say that we would be able to get, evaluate the West Concord coverage? Megan, is
You know, I
that?
had a question on this one. You know, as I'm thinking about, I do have some studies of West Concord from a couple years ago. I did hear from the community, from the board, that additional studies might be helpful.
Yeah,
I'm also thinking about how to fund that. I have been using
Yeah.
ARPA funds for our consultant work, and that expires at the end of December. We are going to be bringing in new revenue with these leases.
From the tower?
With the tower, with Verizon. And so I have been talking to our CFO and town manager about, you know, would there be a mechanism to consider for town meeting this year to capture some of that new revenue, not all of it, to go towards continuing, you know, consulting to improve service all across town. And so I haven't totally nailed that down yet. But if we're going to be looking
would be
for more
helpful.
studies, it might, with new money coming in eventually,
Yeah.
that might be a way to tie that together.
and using the lease dollars would be great.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to relook at West Concord at some point.
Yep.
Sure.
So-
And I just want to be able to
Yeah.
pay for it.
Yeah,
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 so do we.
No,
I
so.
didn't mean to say it like that. I
so
just
maybe-
No, we can't.
No, I get,
How much
I
is
get
this
it,
gonna
I get it.
cost?
So maybe it's not a complete evaluation, but we certainly want to have a plan for a plan,
For
right? Like,
ongoing funding of requests.
yeah,
and
like how are we
improvements,
going to
100%.
do the work?
Yes.
Like, let's understand how we're gonna do it,
Yes.
what,
Yep.
you know, how we're gonna get the money and, you
And I
know.
think reinvesting
Yeah.
those funds into, you know, improving these
Okay.
other spots might make sense. So there may be a town meeting action. We get a pretty full warrant already here.
Yeah.
I know, that's what I'm just getting sensitive to. I just want to do a little time check, and this is with the board. We have the DOT letter that I really, really want to make sure that we discuss tonight.
Yep.
So I'm thinking, if I'm just looking at the clock, and I really wanted to leave by 9. I know, I really wanted to leave at 8:30. Can we spend, like, I'm trying to figure out, can we finish a section? Probably not. We're just moving into the financial management section and the goals. And I'm just wondering if maybe we should stop here, and then
Because we're gonna do financial audit next week too.
We are, yeah.
Well,
we
that's
are
on the
gonna-
agenda.
Yeah.
I'm just
No,
saying
we are.
That'll be kind of covered.
Well, it won't be covered because we still got to do the goals,
I
but
know,
it might be a
but
good precursor to,
the
before
topic, yeah.
talking about the
Yeah.
goals, so.
But before you stop the section,
Yes.
there are two strategic planning goals, which are on page 3, which kind of got
On
bumped.
3, okay.
One is transportation strategy. The other one,
Sorry.
which you put, was the review, prioritization, input of strategic plans.
Yep,
I think that the transportation strategy is pretty straightforward. We have to finalize and accept the plan, and then we start doing this, specify high-priority actions included in the plan for budgeting and implementation. We're actually doing that. So that's, I just want to make sure we got the transportation plan in the strategic plan.
oh, I
Does that
see.
make sense?
So you
I
wanna
see
sorry,
what you're
that-
saying.
You want to move that
I want,
up.
yeah,
So this-
it shouldn't be in
It's
effective
in,
transparency.
it's in effective,
Yeah,
and you want to move it up to the.
it's part of the strategic planning.
Okay, so you're saying
Transport-
the one that's transportation, regional collaboration.
Assessment and place of strategic plans it's
no.
transportation mobility. Forget the other
added one.
plans. It's just the transportation plan, move that up.
The assessment, it's titled Assessment Implementation of Strategic, oh, no, it's the Transportation and Mobility.
Oh, okay, I'm
It's
sorry. I
just
was
that
looking at the
one.
other one here that says
Yeah.
regional
I know,
collaboration on
it's-
transportation, sorry.
Yeah,
I got you. Yeah.
The one above that is
Yeah.
sort of like, let's take a look at all of our plans.
It's like it's a placeholder for all planning.
well, it's really a goal to just make sure that we have all these plans, and people should be looking at the plans, reviewing the
Carrie sounded
plans.
a great summary of those.
Well,
a
that's
while
where I
ago.
was going.
Yeah.
Carrie does have the big master plan of plans.
The plan of plans.
That's on there, but I want our committees to be doing some work to review the plans and identify what needs to be done, and then start thinking about financial implications of those plans and get those, talking to
I
staff
think-
about
I think
that.
one of the goals should be to examine the interdependency of these plans.
Right.
Which includes financial, but other pieces as well.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of the goal. Let's look at these plans and see where they cross.
That sounds like a job for this AI thing.
Yes.
Put all the plans in and say, give me the
Wow,
interdependencies.
okay, Carrie might be doing that right now.
We're doing that. That's
Oh, good.
That's how we're.
Oh,
Is that
that's
the
good.
priority basis?
That's good.
We can delegate that to
All
Claude.
right, well,
Yeah.
maybe I'll
That's
follow
good.
up
No, that's
with
great.
Kerry offline on this
Yeah,
one
that's
and
great.
see, let's recognize what we've already been doing. And so, Paul, you want to pull out transportation?
Yeah, I would just that's with the other,
Yep.
other strategic plans.
Yep, okay. All right, so let's take a stop there.
Okay.
I'm sorry, it just takes a long time to go through these the first time, for sure. What I can do is try to revise, well, let's keep the conversation going at our next meeting, so I'll add that to the agenda. Okay, so I'm going to move us on to, and I'm sorry, if there were people who had questions on our goals, anybody have a question on the goals? No, raise hand on the goals. Michael? Yeah, I got to come up to the microphone.
Michael Williams, 1284 Sudbury Road. Just speaking for myself, not the school committee, I just want to know where in the agenda will the next parts of this be coming up, your goals?
It was a good question. I'm going to try to see if it can fit on next week. It's probably, goals are one of those things that now needs to probably be on every agenda item. We've been really challenged in the last couple meetings by having too large of an agenda. So I need to find the right time, thoughtful time.
Happens in our house too, so.
I know. You know how that goes.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Okay, I'm going to move on to the Department of Transportation letter. There was one initial draft that was put in the meeting packet. It was updated this morning with some revisions based on feedback that I received after the first letter was put in the meeting packet. And I just wanted to make a couple comments on that.
So sorry, do we have the up?
There is in the packet, so there was an original letter, and then there's a red
Right.
line version right after it with some changes.
Oh, in the packet.
In the packet, yep.
Wendy, could,
Yep.
while people are getting.
Finding
getting to
it,
the
yeah,
letter,
yeah.
I guess I have the old packet open, sorry.
No, that's okay, yeah.
If you want this one, that's
Is
the
this a
new
red
one.
I probably have to.
I just
Sure.
wanted to make sure that we clarified that the additional input you received was from staff and not from the select board.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I was just going to
Yeah.
clarify, there were a couple things. One was that the additional information, I had met with Carrie and Aaron and Steve Dukran because we have not, as a board, had a lot of discussion in the letter. I made reference to the water treatment plant. Mary had asked me a question about it originally, and I just suggested that when we review the letter, I would talk about it. But more just to say that when we met, it was just to confirm what the plans were that we were referring to in the letter. And this is something that Mark had included in a prior letter, and I just wanted to understand more about it. So one of the main reason for the revision started with just clarifying what those design documents were, and we did confirm the date of the last one, which is in the letter, and it was from 2023, and it was a 25% design. So this is a water treatment plan, sort of a generic treatment plan with the expectation that it would be sited on CMLP land in between sort of what's the gas station now and the light plant itself. So in that general facility, so I'm just talking generally, because the board has never really had a lengthy discussion about it. So I wanted to hear more about what those potential plans were. So So that was the main reason for the edits. That was the additional information that I was looking for. But in the meantime, I also just made some additional revisions to the letter for language. And actually, Steve Dukran also provided some additional information. Do you need, that is the letter.
It's just not the red line one.
It is the red line, but it's got, is that one? Oh, and wait,
No, the clean
Cameron.
one has one comment that's like Wendy edited the text or something at the very end. That
Oh.
clean one does have some reason to have the extra bar on the side, but doesn't have anything else in it. It has like one thing.
I have a color-coded.
This is
red line if
this
you
is,
want it.
I have the other one up right now.
Have you seen it?
I don't,
This is a color-coded one. It should be in the packet. The
I
packet
think I
has
have the old
this.
packet open and the new agenda, and so it's, I don't know. This-
Yeah, it's so, this red line version is kind of crazy because it's got the
Yeah, no, that's
format
fine.
stuff in it. So,
Yep, I get it.
you
The main correction seems to be changing language about the entrance onto Route 2. This
well,
is
that wasn't really a change. I strengthened the language of it. So, for the most part, let me just step back a little. The letter itself, for the most part, represents the feedback that we've heard from residents from the MCI master plan and TAC, importantly, and you all received a letter from TAC. And so we talked a little bit about the water treatment plant, but the other piece was just strengthening the language around what I see as our priorities. And I'm saying I see as priorities. This is why I want to talk with all of you about it. For the MCI master plan itself, it is absolutely critical that we gain access through the Route 2, through that Elm Place location. And so part of this letter tries to emphasize that need to maintain to the benefit of the MCI site itself. The other issue is the Baker Ave and Elm Street intersection, which our transportation management strategy has a strong position on trying to improve bike and pedestrian access at that intersection. The DOT plans make no provision to make a pedestrian access across that intersection. Instead, they have this nice pedestrian path that goes all the way down Elm Street and over the overpass, and it's just many crossing intersections for a
go all the
person to
way-
bike.
all the way to
Yeah,
Commonwealth and-
it's almost 8/10 of a mile, if I had to think about it. So we really need those improvements at the intersection. And I sort of was thinking about this and saying, how strong a position do we make about this as a board? And I think we need to make a strong position about it. And-
So I sent you some.
Yep, do you want to?
Earlier that strengthened that a little bit. Can I just
Sure.
refer to that?
Sure, and then, can everyone read that up, so that everyone can follow along with what you're going to suggest, and maybe you
Yeah.
speak to where that,
So the preferred
Yes.
design, paragraph 2, it says the town recognizes. So let me just read. The additional lanes exiting Baker Avenue West and entering Elm Street, the west, are somewhat beneficial. I added the word somewhat because they don't solve the problem. Somewhat beneficial in supporting our expanding commercial business and planned housing development in the area. But, and I added, but do not allow.
Paul, you know what, actually, let me just say, because everyone's looking at this plan, can you share your screen?
Yeah.
Because while you sent that to me, it's not public, so let's make it public.
Let me. Okay.
There we go.
Sometimes the red lines,
Yeah.
sometimes blue lines, yellow.
All right.
Yeah,
So I added these words to strengthen this, because I think that what DOT proposed is somewhat beneficial, but do not allow for safe, unimpeded connectivity across Route 2. We're disappointed that the true lasting improvement in the design of this intersection is not part of the overall plan, as the current plan does not allow for safe and convenient pedestrian bike crossings. That was basically the, we advocate for a better solution as described below, because we do go into some. So I just kind of, I wanted to give DOT some credit there, but I didn't, it's really, it's really not a satisfactory improvement as far as that intersection goes. Okay, so that was my change there.
People have any changes since that's sitting on the screen?
I
Any
do think
thoughts?
that's helpful in strengthening this paragraph.
Should we use the word somewhat? I wouldn't put somewhat.
Well,
Well, you just said beneficial, and
Oh, did I? Yeah.
I say somewhat beneficial. I was,
Right.
you know, I just,
they have limited benefit, you know,
Yeah.
they have,
Yeah.
you know, they don't solve the
I
whole
think it's
problem.
fine.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think it's fine.
Okay, so,
it's fine.
And the other thing, you had mentioned 800 to 1,000 units.
yeah.
I suggested that we just.
I think we should take that out.
I said.
That's fine.
I
Just
just
take
think
it out.
that-
That was gonna be
I
my
had to say-
main
I had to
comment.
say
Yeah.
that's
is
the same
just-
thing I had.
Large number of
It,
units.
the
It's
master
only what
plan
the
includes,
UHLC yeah.
you know, substantial housing units on the site as
Yeah,
well
'cause
as
you know what,
other
we're
things
not-
and
yeah,
other
yeah,
things. So I
yeah.
think we should just be much more general.
Yep,
So you could say it includes, you know,
we'll just.
housing
yeah.
units, commercial or retail and relocation.
And
Right.
just
And-
the last suggestion, if I can just, under traffic congestion and impacts, and
Mm-hmm.
look, that's sort of, if you scroll down to.
You just, yeah.
Oh,
just
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The last paragraph, which is true, that, you know, about MBTA, I'm just.
Wait, so first of all, can you go to your yellow highlight?
Okay.
Was there anything substantial there?
what are they-
Large multiple housing developments in West Concord.
Yeah, I wanted to throw in that it's not just about MCI, it's about the other large multiple housing developments in West Concord. I mean, this is what the house bonding proposal, I think DOT has to recognize that it's a broader, you know.
So is it new users anticipated from large multiple housing, because they're not there yet?
Yep.
However, the anticipated
Yep.
construction will greatly exacerbate.
But they're approved, like, they're
Yeah,
not,
they're
they're
anticipated,
not
they're approved.
speculative.
Well,
Well,
But they're not just, I mean, they're,
it's anticipated construction, they're approved, but, yeah, they haven't been built yet. That was that little change there.
I guess to me, already approved is different from anticipated sounds like, well, it could happen, it might not. I just want to make sure we're communicating that it's,
so it's
It's
from
happening.
approved large multiple?
Yeah, approved construction, yeah.
So returning to the question of the 800 to 1,000, we just want to say it's a large number.
Just drop
Yeah.
it, yeah,
Drop
just
it?
drop the reference, yeah.
Okay, so one of the comments I had that I just left on the side of my own document was, it may be helpful here to just say, this site used to be a designed facility for 650 prisoners who could not leave, and now we're thinking of, 1,800 to 2,000 people who are going to want to move around. And
just
that's
thousands of people who are going to be moving back
yeah,
and forth
exactly.
through that.
Plus
Yeah.
visitors to whatever,
Yeah.
who are
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
and going. So the nature of the transportation is so different that we need to somehow get that across to them, that this site is, going to really have a big impact. And just saying there's going to be a large number doesn't, to me, seem to get it. But if you say this used to only have design capacity for 650, which surged to 2x that in the early 2000s to almost like 1,300. But still, they couldn't leave. They weren't going anywhere.
They didn't
weren't
have
mobile.
cars.
They didn't have
weren't
cars.
They didn't have cars, right.
They didn't have
Well,
cars.
maybe it's
And
housing.
maybe you had
maybe it's
150
housing units
people.
and,
Maybe you had 100 people
Well,
coming in.
literally, there was no access into
Yeah,
MCI. There
exactly.
was not, right.
So now we're going to a very large possible number, if you're looking at, even at the low end, let's say 700. If it's 2.3, you're at like 1,500 people on this premise who have mobility, who can leave.
well, I think adding automobile to the housing units, I mean.
Yeah,
That's-
so I
I just
guess.
think it's like,
I guess just-
thousands of people are going to be
Yeah,
coming in
so
and
that's
out.
exactly, so
all.
just taking the number out actually reduces our capacity to say that, to make that point, is I guess my point. We want to say, this is a big scale difference in how that whole
Yeah.
space is going to behave in terms of traffic.
So
That was my
something that's
comment over
just,
here.
so it says including large number of housing units, and I'll have to add something in addition to that, an
As well as
anticipated.
retail and commercial development, the relocation of our Concord Public Works.
Yeah, it's,
you know.
yeah.
So I think, yes, we can emphasize that it's going to be a lot.
But it's really about people and
Yeah.
the
Yeah, it's really
circulation
about
on the
people
site.
and
It's
the-
people and
those people
circulation.
being able to move around.
Yep.
Yeah.
The,
Okay.
The other point I had was that there was a number in here, I don't know, Paul's doesn't have it displayed at the moment, that it was a 69-acre site.
Yeah, that got
That number's
removed.
got to be different than that. I've
Where
not
is it?
seen that number ever, anywhere.
No, well, we dropped it. It was removed.
Okay.
That sentence was
Okay.
dropped. But it's 51 plus the 12.8
It's like
plus
51,
5.
exactly.
Well, 51 is the prison site, then you're adding 12.8 for Junction Village, and then add 5 for the parking lot. That's really where those numbers come from.
Yeah, that's 12.
51 is
Okay.
the site,
51 is
prison
the actual
proper.
site.
Is the, yeah.
Okay, and it does not include, I
It
was under the
did not
impression that
include Junction
51
Village,
included
no.
Junction Village. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm clear now.
But
on
we
why-
dropped
where
that sentence, yeah.
I'd never seen 69 anywhere. I'm
Yeah, I
like,
know.
whoa,
Yeah.
it's much bigger.
So, just contextually, like, we don't really have a vote, right? I mean, they could approve to do, they could say, hey, thank you for your input, we're gonna redesign it a different way.
They could, I mean, they put 4 designs out.
Yeah.
I mean, but I just feel like we should just make the point that we feel is in the best interest of Concord and the development of the MCI site. So I will say one other thing that Steve did share is that DOT is looking still at each of these intersections and trying to improve upon them. You probably heard recently there were some of the wrong-way driver accidents. So there was some questions raised about the viability of some of these designs. And so there's some offline discussions that Steve was sharing that the engineers are still looking back now and tweaking it. But so, yeah, but to your answer, we're not necessarily the influencer, but I do think that our position, that we do hold some weight. Because
Oh,
if
yeah.
the town isn't going to support it, it's going to be a problem.
I guess what I'm sort of trying to get at is it helpful for us to sort of link, this is an important piece of how we can redevelop the MCI site and what is sort of available? Or do they not, are they sort of like, we're Department of Transportation, we're going to redesign the Rotary, a different group's going to figure out what goes on MCI and we don't really, do you know what I'm saying? I was
Yeah,
just
no,
trying
I know
to
what
think
you're saying.
of
I
like,
think-
hey, are we,
I-
like,
Yeah.
it's not only important, you should listen to us because it matters how, it ultimately matters how the MCI site can be redeveloped, right? As to
Yeah,
what this looks
definitely
like.
will influence, yeah. If we don't have that access, I'm not sure what would
But I
happen
think,
on
I
site.
think that's kind of clear, and we know that DCAM is talking
yeah.
to DOT. I
And
think
we
it-
tried to say, these is, in the best
I
interest of the
think, I mean,
Commonwealth.
the 2 major design themes here are, one, access to MCI from the Rotary,
Mm-hmm.
and then the Baker Avenue improvement. Those are things that could impact the design and the money here.
Well, and the actual concept design itself,
Yeah,
because it impacts where Commonwealth is impacted directly.
right. Just the last thing I had here was here, the shaded thing.
Yeah,
I thought the issue of frequency of MBTA is true, but I didn't know if it belonged in this letter.
I think we should still include it, because it's a
It's-
mitigation to,
It's up to you, but I
to
don't think DOT
no, I know they're not.
cares about it or has any
Well,
influence on it.
but I think it is important. I mean, our
No, it-
transportation
it is-
committees,
It
yeah,
is important, the
Right.
grand scheme, but if you want to put it in here, that's fine.
yeah.
I think we have a hand raised.
Yeah, well, wait, first, I want to
Okay.
make sure that the
Yeah.
board,
Okay.
so Dean, did you have other thoughts on the letter?
Well, I sort of expressed mine, which
Yeah,
was
yeah.
that I wanted us to really emphasize to them the huge population and mobility change in the space.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
by using actual numbers, I thought we could make that point really sharply, but if we want to take those out and just call it a large number of people are going to live here, like, that's fine, I guess.
Well, but I think it's
Okay.
more than living there. I
Yeah.
think there's, when
But
you have
it's-
retail
Yeah.
and commercial, I guess
So-
I want to expand it to like, there will be thousands of people
Right,
going through there because it's
right.
not only the housing, but when you get through, even public works, et cetera.
Right. So that, I made that point, but I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
really give you, I didn't give you language for
No, no,
that.
that's okay. Yep.
And I can certainly provide language for that. But that was my main point.
Okay,
was
I just wanted-
trying to use numbers
Yep.
to push back and make sure that they're paying attention to, that these traffic issues are real and that the amount of
Yeah.
flow in and out of that site is going to be so markedly different than it was when it was a prison with a bunch of employees showing up for work every day, which is not.
Very different. And they had a parking lot. Yeah.
So you have my, I sent you. a
Yeah,
copy
I have
of
yours,
this, so,
Paul, and I don't know, Cameron, if
Do you
you've
want me
done.
to take, this
I
has
mean,
all of your red
So
lines in it.
procedurally
Yeah.
going forward, if you send something like this out in the future, Wendy, you don't mind if I send you back stuff like Paul
Well,
sends stuff in? I had made some comments, and I'm like, we're going to have to talk about this because it's about.
That's the open meeting law
It's an open
thing.
meeting
So
law thing,
really,
so-
we shouldn't be sending it just to me, because then I'm hearing what you're saying outside of the meeting,
Oh,
right?
okay, all right, so then I don't do that.
So, yeah, I mean, in
Right.
theory, we shouldn't do it.
So-
That's why we're having a
right, so we can
conversation
set it up so we
here.
all
Yeah.
send feedback to somebody on the
Yes,
town
yeah,
staff, and then
yeah.
they
Okay.
compile
Yeah.
it for us for the
Right,
meeting.
right.
Whatever,
Right.
however you want to do it.
Yeah.
I just felt like, okay, I'm not doing that because.
No, I appreciate it, 'cause-
Yeah,
yeah.
all right, fine, it's fine. I had a
Right.
few, what I'll just call, just like wordsmithing edits. I mean, they're not anything significant, like words like the word obviate was spelled wrong.
Yeah, no, actually, you know what,
Things
those
like
were
that.
changed. There was a lot of typos on the
Yeah,
first
there were
one, so
typos.
those should have all been
Fine,
caught
okay.
in that red line
Fair
version.
enough.
Yep.
And I had one other, really modest thing in the preamble, second paragraph, I just added, I added a clause that just said, so the purpose of this memo is to provide input on the town of Concord's preferred concept design and share additional feedback on design elements, and then I said, and project execution. Because we're talking about this 5-year gap where all the traffic's going to be diverted into our local roads. And so project execution is an important piece of what we care about, how they get it done quickly.
I think that's right, yeah.
And so I just said, and project execution there.
Okay. All right. Okay.
These
Cam-
are, I give you a couple very small wordsmith
Okay.
edits. Otherwise, I'm good with what we've discussed.
Okay. Now, Kristen is not here. She's on vacation this week. Megan, who can I have someone send these to?
You can send them to me.
Can you send them to you?
Sure.
All right.
But it sounds
And
like
then-
we're close. I mean, I think.
We're very close, and
Yeah.
I
We could probably approve a final one next week or something.
yeah, I'm hoping that would be
Yeah.
the case.
Yep.
All right,
Very
we'll
good.
do that. Thank you. All right, so that, I know we're late as usual. Okay, so are there any public comments? I do see Diane Proctor has her hand raised. Diane?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, thank you.
Diane?
Hi, I'm sorry. They won't let me. They won't let me go on video. So
Oh.
you're just gonna get my mellifluous voice.
We hear you, though.
Listen, thank you so much for a fantastic discussion tonight, and the care with which you manage this is just so elegant. If people don't know what's going on, or if they're listening to this, one of the major questions is who ultimately gets to decide how many houses or housing structures are going to go on that site. We hear that, well, the state is suggesting one thing. We're constantly in public venues being suggested that, well, actually, it will be less than that or fewer than that, actually. And so I guess clarifying for the public who actually is going to adjudicate that number and how that's going to be determined is really, I think, important. And so I'll now lower my hand and be quiet. Thank you.
Okay, Diane, we'll seek to clarify that in our future meetings. One of the things you heard tonight is that there is some financial analysis and refinement to the plan that's ongoing over the next month, but we'll not forget that comment and make sure that we follow up on that. Thank you. And I see Andrea Solomon, your hand's raised. Andrea?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to point out that the success of the redesign of the Rotary will not just benefit Concord, it benefits all the communities west of Concord. And I'm not sure if there's room for that in the letter, and maybe that's not the place to point it out. But when I hear MassDOT come to talk to us, they seem a little bit they sort of say, oh, this is Concord. We expected this from Concord. But it's really not just to the benefit of Concord. All those communities that commute through Concord to go to Boston west of us will benefit if it's successful. And I hope they keep that in mind too when they're looking at all these plans for the redesign.
I'm sure they will. Thanks, Andrea. I mean, that was very clear with the meeting that was held in early May, where we had a lot of legislators from the western part of the state coming, trying to impress
Okay.
upon them the importance of that project. Do I see other hands? No. And there's no other audience members here. Okay, so I think we will bring a draft back at the next meeting. Thank you, Megan, for your help with that. Our last agenda item is liaison reports. Anybody have any additions to their liaison reports or questions on their liaison reports?
No, I just had a thematic thing that kind of came across all my meetings, and it was ground source heat pumps. You know,
Yeah.
it was in the planning board, it was at the Climate Action Committee, and you know, it just seems like it's a pivot that the state is actually taking when they're granting money for clean energy and improvements and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
We lost a grant, and so it came up in my light board meetings, which is we lost a grant for the solar on top of the school because all the other grants that they gave out were for ground source heat pumps.
Really?
Yeah, so it seems like that's a direction that the state is traveling, and so that's just sort of weirdly thematic through my through my liaisons.
Great, I did see a lot of that. Right, anything else? Ken? Any updates?
I mean, financial audit, we will talk about it next week.
All right.
So we had a good meeting
Good.
on that last week. And then, you know, the Economic Vitality Committee is also sort of very interested in what's going on at MCI, and I think is trying to figure out how to sort of weigh in and kind of participate in some of that, you know, constructively, to just look at understanding sort of the commercial, the potential retail and commercial development, not only on that site, which they'd love to sort of better sort of, you know, figure out how to advocate for, but also impact on other sort of businesses coming, you know. You're building something here, what's the impact on existing businesses, in particular existing West Concord businesses?
So I will say that Tyler Springs did outreach. I don't know if he was really outreaching from the Business Roundtable, asking about it, and he wanted to meet on September 9th in the morning, and I said, well, it just happens, we're going to be having a meeting that night, so maybe that's not the best time. I did invite to meet earlier, and he's like, no, we're not meeting this summer. So, and I'm like, well, and I did encourage him to come to the MCI Master Plan Committee. If the Economic Vitality Committee feels like it would be beneficial to have a conversation, myself or Dan could also come to a meeting and talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, I think they're trying to figure out how to constructively engage, and like, should we send a letter? Do we show up at a meeting? Like, what's the best ways of doing that?
Well, they seemed like they had questions. No, I think, but encourage them to outreach to us, and maybe coming to their meeting is better.
Good.
Or, I mean, certainly have them come to the Master Plan Committee. So.
Sounds good.
All right, great.
One other thing from my liaison, and I put it in the report, and that is that the Hugh Cargill folks are feeling stressed about meeting the need in the community. So they're looking for ways to get other people to either contribute or find money in the couch cushions of the town. I'm not close enough to my mic. So they're, anyway, that was something I asked
We
about.
will hear a bit more, actually, next week. We're going to be talking about 41C and a half and some additional information from the Hugh Cargill Trust. This is in follow-up to the select board from the RTE study committee that had recommendations. So we're going to bring back some data to enlighten you on the benefits of those recommendations or lack thereof. So more discussion to be had on that. So thank you. All right.
Good.
I think with that, I will adjourn our meeting.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, thank you.